जो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह पजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह गुर सेवा ते भगत कमाई तब ये मानस देही पाए इस देही को सिमरै देव सो देही भज हर की सेव सो देही भज हर की सेव भजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह.
So, welcome friends to another podcast in the Holy Truth series, given as always in the name of the Supreme Lord, who once again wishes to impart the very highest truth of what many call God, life and creation, to the sincere seekers of the world, especially for the modern age. That's further supported by the holy masters, perfect saints and noble mystics of Sant today. Now this high truth of the ages is the noble path of Sant, or path of the true saints, also known as the universal truth, true spirituality or true religion, that is so graciously gifted to seeking humanity by the great holy masters, perfect saints and noble mystics in every age, who are themselves the true representative of the Supreme Lord even today. And although little known among the masses, once encountered, a sincere truth seeker can easily recognize that this noble path or true way encompasses all true faiths and beliefs as the noble source of all, details of which can be found in our humble literature, spiritual centers or YouTube channel, as well as in the Holy Discourse series of ISTAuk.com, among other Sant sources from around the world. But before I begin today's session of spiritual questions and answers, I would first like to make a short introduction about who we are and what we represent here today, especially those who don't already know. While for those who do, then please forgive my repetition, I hope to be brief. We are the International Spiritual Truth Association, or ISTAuk for short, and although now global, we originally set up in 2016 in the UK by request of the Holy Masters of the day, who derived their authority from Great Master Baba Sawan Singh Ji of the holy lineage of Sant in India, the Levant and Persia. As such, we are a spiritual education centre, commissioned to provide the very highest truth of Sant to those who wish to know. Thus, we simply build upon the work of the more traditional methods currently available elsewhere. In this way, our given mission is simple: to tell the full truth about true spirituality or true religion from the Supreme Lord's point of view, especially now in the modern age, while also correcting the confusions of the past and even that of the present about what is the real truth. But this higher teaching is not new. It is the age-old path of true spirituality, known today as the holy truth of Sant, which is in fact has been discreetly taught throughout the ages to the most sincere seekers of the time, alongside the more familiar religious or philosophical teachings that we all know of. Indeed, Holy Masters tell us that the simple teachings of mass religion and mass philosophy, or even mass science, are only there to elevate the masses to the position of higher thinking or higher truth seeking, so that they can understand and ultimately practice true spirituality or true religion, with all the love, grace and wonder that such a gift entails. Now, for those who do listen and take heed, Holy Masters tell us that they are indeed the most fortunate of humanity. As for myself, I am a humble servant and sincere devotee of the very highest truth of Sant for many years now, who has given his life in the service of the true Lord, as well as to the Holy Masters of today. As such, I do not seek any recognition, praise or reward, as I only act with the authority and by request of the Supreme Lord itself, as well as that of the Holy Masters of today, to simply tell the full truth of God, life and creation to those who wish to know. I thus live in the Supreme Lord's will, and simply offer my humble demonstration, guidance and true knowledge to all who seek the same, especially in the modern age. Now, as a friend and co-traveller on this noble path to God realization, I only ask that you put aside my human form and instead listen to and take heed of the loving truth that the Supreme Lord has to offer you via this humble form, who has himself been transformed by the Holy Masters of today. Thus I represent the proof that truly anyone can rise above their given karmic role to become truly noble once again, by the true Lord's grace, if only they earnestly seek it. No matter how wretched or difficult their life may have been, for the true Lord of all is not only compassionate for the suffering of humanity, who seeks the high truth, but also truly merciful. Therefore, everything I shall share with you today is a gift of wisdom from the true Lord itself, for the sincere seekers of high spiritual truth, which I have been asked to share with you. But please do not attempt to praise or glorify this humble servant in any way, for you too are all divine beings undergoing a human experience in this lifetime, though you may not yet be aware of this. Therefore, what is given to me freely by the true Lord, I give to you the same. In return, I only ask that you open your heart and mind to the holy truth that the Supreme Lord and the Holy Masters have to offer you. There is no need to give up your current faith or belief, only to listen, explore, and see for yourself the further details or the further truths that are hidden within you. For true spirituality is not a religion or a scripture. It is the birthright of every human being here on earth, no matter what their current background, belief, or circumstance. Now, for those who need further assistance, they may privately contact the main speaker directly, via email or video, by first subscribing to our valuable information service at ISTAuk.com, and then requesting the direct contact details of our main speaker from our administrators. He will endeavour to answer all spiritual queries within 48 hours of receipt, but please be patient if he should take a little longer due to his busy schedule and sheer number of inquiries. Thank you. Now, before we begin this question and answer session, I would like to make a short talk about the final revelation that has been given and been allowed to share with you. So please allow some time for this. It will take about half an hour or so to read through everything and explain everything, and then we can proceed with the question and answers. Okay, so this theme for today is titled Final Revelation of the Highest Truth. So, my dear brothers and sisters and friends of spiritual inquiry, today I have some very sobering yet remarkable knowledge to share with you regarding an important aspect of the highest truth of God, life and creation that I would like to reveal. Indeed, I have received permission to share this revelation with you from the Supreme Lord itself, supported by the Holy Masters of today, especially for the modern day Sangat, meaning the disciples and seekers of the holy truth of Sant. During my many discourses thus far, among other aspects of high spiritual truth, I traditionally taught about the important role of love, grace, compassion, and divine intervention from the Supreme Lord, or Holy Masters, etc., toward their human subjects, in the traditional manner previously shown to me. However, and especially recently, when I examined all this more closely, and the full truth of the matter was finally unveiled, it was quite different, and somewhat troubling even, from the human point of view. I would therefore like to explain more today, as this revelation profoundly impacts every single one of us in karmic creation, and I believe should be known to all at this time. Indeed, I sincerely believe that in the modern age the full truth of our karmic existence and its story should be told. This is because the actual truth differs markedly from what we are initially taught as followers or disciples of God, both historically and even today via traditional ideas. Now, before you ask, there is a very solid reason for these traditional half-truths to have been taught and promoted thus far, even by the Holy Masters, perfect saints, or noble mystics themselves, till today. You see, so feeble and uncomprehending is the human mind that most could not take the full truth of the matter without feeling confused or utterly disheartened in some way. But today, with humans evolving to gradually higher levels of understanding and awareness, as evolution of the planet traverses through the yugas, the time has now come to complete the puzzle of human life in karmic creation. No doubt, some will marvel at it all with wonder, while others will feel disappointed or let down in some way. Yet for some, it will simply pass over their heads, as their limited comprehension won't even register or accept it, despite it resonating deep within their heart. But regardless of one's state of mental comprehension, so profound are the truths to be told, in a time of advancement where such truths can rightly be given, that the full truth should now be revealed, and the Sangat in particular be supported at the same time, to help them adjust accordingly. Now, even though many past Holy Masters and most current ones have strongly hinted about this high truth, without going into much detail, still their followers mostly comprehend it not, as the saying goes. Therefore, in coping with this final revelation, it must be acknowledged that many may just happily accept it in gratitude, saying that now it all makes much better sense to them, while others may simply dismiss it or ignore it as it goes over their head. Others still may be somewhat distressed by it all, if they begin to naturally adjust, unless they begin to naturally adjust to it. But truth is truth, and thus cannot be altered or adulterated in any false ideas, or by any individual forever, to suit their preferences, whether master, disciple, or others. So let's now reveal it. Having personally discovered the full extent of our karmic existence here on earth and elsewhere, and the true role of the Holy Masters, divine love, grace, human effort, and divine intervention, etc., this true knowledge should be shared to all who seek the very highest truth, as it actually impacts the life of every single one of us, whether religious, spiritual, scientist, atheist or other, without exception. Yet, surprisingly, though understandably, is rarely mentioned in the Holy Scriptures, holy teachings or spiritual talks, etc., of most faiths, even traditional Sant. So let's take a closer look. It has already been explained that everything we see and experience outside of ourselves, while in the human form, is simply a projection from within our mindful self to form a myriad of alternative experiences or characters to entertain our high truth self or oneness. It is further known that in each projection or character we, the originator, are the central star or hero behind the story of that form. Thus, all other characters in our story are simply alternative projections of our universal self playing their part, whether as family, friends, enemies, associates, masters, or extras, etc., accompanied by the backdrop of scenery stuff, which again is of our projection, all enjoying the drama or play of the divine from their apparently individual perspectives, meaning each as an alter ego or character version of ourself, the totality of which makes up our true oneness self, or God in religion. Now, to expand upon this further, for those versions of ourself on a spiritual or religious journey, we are confidently told about the great compassion of the Supreme Lord or Holy Master, our true higher self, who always helps those who sincerely ask for it in faith when they are undergoing some serious difficulties in life, or guides, protects them in some way, or can even alter the course of events in their favour here on earth if they are good devotees. However, in line with what has already been explained, there is far more to all this that is first taught. At first glance, all the holy books, texts, scriptures, and spiritual literature or talks, etc., even by the holy masters themselves often, proclaim about the existence of love, compassion, forgiveness, protection, and help, or divine intervention, from the true Lord or Holy Master toward their disciples initially and especially, but also towards the faithful at large. But in truth, that is not entirely the case. That is not how it actually works, which is why some followers or disciples eventually lose their way, becoming disheartened when things do not seem to work out well, or even fairly for them as they see it, despite their sincere efforts to have faith, to better themselves, or to repent, etc. Also, for the casual observer, there seems to be a rather hit and miss, or lottery win or lose result, as to whom or when grace is granted, and surprisingly, it does not seem to correlate with one's sincere efforts to live a noble or spiritual way of life, or even one's actual merit in spiritual practice. To example this, we have all heard of the infamous or unjust crucifixion of Jesus the Christ, the bitter poisoning of the Buddha, the cowardly assassination of the 10th Sikh Guru that ended his campaign to free India from tyranny, the harassment of Prophet Muhammad by the tribal locals for his radical one God teachings, the cruel torture and murder of Guru Arjan Dev, who commissioned the famous Guru Granth Sahib, Sikh's holy book, that was completed shortly before his murder by the Islamists of the time, the lynch mob murder by arson of the noble saint Paltu Sahib of North India because of his radical Sant teachings, and many others I could quote. They did nothing but good in the world and did not intentionally harm anyone. The point is that if the Supreme Lord, or Creator God as we term it, could let such tragic events happen to such noble beings, often in their prime, then what about the rest of us? What is our true lot in life then? Does mercy, forgiveness, grace, or divine intervention, etc., actually exist? Well, let's take a closer look. Now, the actual truth is this: there is but one law, above all others, that governs absolutely everything in karmic creation, meaning physical, astral and causal realms, which is termed hukam, or divine will, or karma. There is simply no other law that operates here on earth, no matter what you may do, good or bad, or what you may believe otherwise, or even what your lifestyle may be. Each one of us, including the holy masters of the day, are born with a karmic-based script to follow, without exception or deviation therefrom. Our entire universe, in fact, is based upon a perfect order of events, including births and deaths, timelines of events, and our part in it all. Indeed, all life and non-life is governed by this law, without exception. This means, for example, that once born as a human being, one's entire life, thoughts, and circumstances or fate is predetermined by the divine script or blueprint of creation, which none can escape, till their timeline or script says so. It doesn't matter who you are, how noble or lowly your life may be, or how great or worthless are your achievements. None of this affects the outcome of the script, not even if one is initiated by a holy master of the day. Like the relentless ticking of a clock, the individual moves along the script of their life in full automatic mode. Moreover, the cleverness of this design or script is such that it includes one's reaction attitude and personality too, which gives one a feeling of actual control or blame for their life lived. Indeed, the evolutionary script of life and of our universe itself in the physical realm is relentless and unforgiving. Even one's protest about it all, when trying to improve their lot, does not make any difference to the script or outcome, whether one appeals to a holy master, the Supreme Lord, or one's personal God or not. No one will intervene in the Supreme Lord's great play of creation unless it is scripted, as absolutely everything, including one's time for salvation, course of events, and related behaviors, are all predetermined. Not even an atom in the universe has true free will, let alone human beings. You see, if anything were to happen outside of the script or natural karmic law, or any intervention was to occur unscripted, then the entire karmic creation would break down into chaos and collapse. Therefore, it doesn't or cannot happen. Thus, the stories we are told about effort bringing grace, or prayer being heard, or holy meditation yielding results, are just that, stories, to keep us in a loop of hope and comfort, while the true script carries on behind the scenes, relentlessly. On the few occasions when our prayers appear to be heard or our meditation rewarded, it is not because of our pleas or effort, but because of the coincidental timing of such activities with the timeline of the Lord's script for us. To complicate matters even more, we are told half-truths about the role of our behavior, effort, or desires in all this. But the actual truth is that in order to keep us believing in our self-reliance or self-control, meaning our self-centered delusion of life, we are given the mindset to believe that somehow it is all our fault, or that it is all down to us, whatever happens in life. Now, for the unenlightened, they believe this delusion because it comforts them into feeling that they may have some free will to make changes through choice making. But these choices are again pre-scripted. Yet still, we are all personally assigned the good or bad consequences of our activities, as if we had any real choice in our thoughts or deeds. What's more, to make it even more real, valid, others around us too point the finger of blame or praise, when none should be due, as things only happen as they should or are scripted, regardless of one's inherent feelings about it. In other words, we are like robots following our given script, and are also programmed with a personality trait or chip that displays outward behaviors that others again, just like us, automatically react to as part of their programmed recognition and reaction protocol. This is why, conceptually, full AI or artificial intelligence is even possible here on Earth. So, what, if anything, can be done about this great or cruel game of life that we are all part of? Well, the obvious answer is nothing outside of one's timeline of events script. However, when the actual time comes to start acting in our best or higher self-interest, then the machinery of salvation kicks in. But still, it is directed by the great script of creation to be accomplished over time. Therefore, even our salvation journey is predetermined and not down to us at all. We cannot truly save ourselves by any effort of our robot mind. We can only be saved by a power from beyond the mind pulling us home. Furthermore, all so-called divine interventions, holy grace, or spiritual guidance is predetermined or scripted. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens outside of this script or law in the karmic realms. Therefore, no amount of protesting, effort, or pleas will make any difference to your script. Nor can you think or act outside of your script, whether in protest or otherwise. All you can actually do is go along with it, or go with the flow, and somehow detach yourself from the whole show. Even the holy masters cannot or will not change your story, despite some suggestions made otherwise even by them. The truth is that holy masters are sent as helpful comforters, for an alternative focus of our attention, to support us along our salvation journey of personal transformation, and to especially mark the point at which our script says we are to escape the karmic trap of creation soon, through a scripted ritual termed holy initiation, baptism, or spiritual awakening, etc. But until that actual escape beyond mind and matter happens, we are at the mercy of our karmic script, with the central villain being termed Kal, or dark time, and the hero being termed Satgurus, or true Lord, in Sant. Each religion or philosophy has its own version of villain and hero, but the gist is the same. Yet the real truth is far removed from these stories, as only the true origin or one exists, who plays all the parts, by separating itself from itself for the divine thrill of drama and adventure, so to speak, simply because it can, since it is accountable to none other than itself, and naturally wills to express itself in infinite and unlimited ways, of which we are but one expression. So, who or what is God, Guru, or disciple then? I think that is now self-explanatory, so let's continue. Thus, despite what is commonly proclaimed as a comfort for the masses, there is no love or compassion involved, in the literal sense. There is only the theatre of the divine play, via the great script. And yes, certain words are used as comfort by the holy masters, just to help us to cope better with the play. And that is it really. But then, what about the proclaimed power or authority of the holy masters themselves? Doesn't that have any influence on the script? The short answer is no. The divine script or blueprint for creation governs all, absolutely all, including the interventional role of the holy visitors to earth. So holy visitors act according to their role, where it is forbidden to interfere with the divine script of creation, even if they could. Yet they offer comfort to us as a special reminder of our possible or actual salvation journey. Now, whether you are capable of understanding all this, or capable of accepting it or not, it is just your fate. But the karmic law script prevails, regardless of our emotional feelings about it. All you can do is go along with it, with faith and wisdom, in as peaceful terms as is possible for you, while your timeline script ticks on. And, if initiated by a holy master, etc., you have nothing to worry about really, ultimately. Therefore, if your good script fortune, if we mean by your good script fortune, you are to receive this secret revelation of the high truth, and furthermore can understand it all, then you are the most fortunate of seeking humanity. Indeed, the main point here is not to blame yourself for your shortcomings, nor to praise yourself for your apparent achievement or good works, nor to point a finger at others for their shortcomings or good attainments, for all in truth is predetermined and not in the hands of the so-called doer. Similarly, don't be disappointed when things go wrong in life, even if you are a noble spiritual guide or simple practitioner. For the Holy Masters do not intervene in the great script of life, but merely offer a source of focus or comfort for our weary emotions and devotion, based upon love and gratitude, along with helpful information to make sense of it all. While we still have to go through our timeline of events, which actually governs every moment of our lives, though for initiates of a Holy Master, etc., they are not to face all this alone. This is what Guru Nanak meant when he said, "This is a very cruel play, when looking at it from the human perspective, but still, it is only a play, under the comfort of the Lord." However, a serious question now arises. What is our actual role in this divine play then? This is no doubt an important life question for human beings, who are uniquely blessed above all other species on earth with reasoned thinking, discernment, and higher awareness. As such, the real purpose of these faculties has been debated about for centuries by philosophers, religions, and now science. Yet the real truth behind these remarkable faculties is actually very simple, though somewhat mind-blowing, for ordinary individuals who are not yet enlightened or higher aware. Therefore, I shall complete the full truth of this final revelation by explaining about the actual role of human-level consciousness that exists within the framework of the three karmic or energy realms of mindful creation, termed physical, astral, and causal, which are distinctly separate from the three realized or awareness realms of soul creation, termed pure soul, universal soul, and true home. You see, the karmic realms govern intelligent motion, causing the impulse of thoughts to occur in directional time, while the motionless soul realms govern intuitive awareness, allowing for the immanent and infinite expression of consciousness that is both innate and eternal. For this, I will only refer here to the role of human beings who seek the high truth, rather than to that of human animals, who only seek sensual pleasures and baseline gratifications in this great play of divinity. Thus, the true role of human beings here on earth is this: to be an active experiencer and observer of karmic life, through ever-increasing levels of higher understanding as they evolve, thus developing an increasing marvel of it all. Nothing else could be done or achieved outside of this role, or of one's given karmic script, whilst here on earth. Yet, as mentioned earlier, the fact that a convincing feeling of active participation is placed within the thinking mind of a human entity as an actual doer is the true marvel of illusion behind it all. Indeed, so great is this illusory belief that these participants in creation actually believe that they can and do act by their own accord, via their own will. Why? Because they seem to make choices about how to react to the events of life, and thus about how they choose to live their life. Even satsangis or disciples of a holy master, etc., let alone religious followers, philosophers, or scientists, initially fall for this trick of illusion, till they wake up from such a slumber of their higher awareness, to observe the real truth all around them. For this reason, it is not their fault for initially embracing negative karmic traits such as anger, lust, hate, greed, judgment, blame, apathy, delusion, or an egotistical pride. These are the baseline traits of a perceived survival need that belongs more to the animal kingdom than to true human beings. Yet there it is, all around us, perpetrated by human entities who really should know better if they are the supposed top of karmic creation, or the darlings of the living world. In actual truth, though, only around 3% of human entities successfully rise above the animal state in any given time period to become truly noble human beings, worthy of praise and attention, whether as accomplished disciples of a holy master or not. The rest, even if baseline disciples of a religion, holy master, etc., just blindly follow their karmic faith, believing all along that they are somehow in control, and thus justified in their varied thoughts and deeds, much to their own detriment in the end, of course, a fact that they only discover after the death of their body, when it is too late to repent, even for baseline disciples of a holy master, etc. You see, from the Supreme Lord's point of view, these imperfections must be there if karmic creation is to continue. Hence the circle of life and death in its many forms continues in karmic creation, represented by the chakra wheel of fate in some religions, because of their knowledge of cause and consequence, till one's time comes to be liberated from the limitations of the lower forms. Those who are in a fortunate position of higher awareness can thus embrace the role of a noble human being rather than that of a human animal, and are very fortunate indeed, for they can now truly enjoy their time in creation by recognizing it for what it is, and thus play along with it through higher contemplation practices rather than fight against it. Now, what does it mean to be an active observer of one's karmic script? Well, what I'm trying to say here is that a comprehending human being, while actively fulfilling their given duties and responsibilities in life, should adopt the role of intuitive detachment from the whole play, through utilizing a meditative or contemplative focus of attention on their true source of consciousness within, or initially upon their external comforter, the holy master, etc., as a distraction away from the character they are playing in this life, and thus observe that character at work with a more reasoned comprehension. You see, when one's higher mind awakens by the truth-giver Lord itself, a natural yearning for the higher truth of life occurs, which generates an inexplicable attraction to that truth, termed divine love and faith, where without that love there can be no faithful devotion. So, once awakened, one can truly experience being an observer firsthand. Initially, this is gifted even without yet entering or glimpsing the higher realms of creation. But this observation faculty takes a little practice to fully master, yet is available to all human beings, but not human animals, who have naturally aspired to and attained some higher awareness of their consciousness, whether through true spiritual practice because it is scripted or otherwise. Meanwhile, the more active part of observation is the compulsion one carries within them to act in a certain way to the events of life, till they can rise above these consequence reactions, to become somewhat neutral in all this. For only in neutral mode can one truly appreciate and enjoy the marvel of creation. Such a one accepts the events of life through the realization that one cannot change the course of events, but instead can simply adjust to them through one's learned high philosophy in life. Adjusting to the events of life will always bring a more favorable outcome than fighting the events. Taking a practical approach, therefore, is always better than an emotional or reckless approach. If you stubbornly swim against the waves, you will likely drown. But if you ride the waves, you will be taken more easily to the safety of the shore to find rest and peace. At the same time, all the tension you have built up in challenging the waves will evaporate too. As the true Lord says, live in the will of the Lord for you by going with the flow. Then all will become smoother and will pass much easier for you. That is the promise of the true Lord, if only you can keep your part of the deal. I will give an example of this idea. We all know what it's like to enjoy a movie in the cinema as a spectator. Well, our life can be viewed much the same. We know that we cannot change or influence the events taking place in a movie. We can only watch it unfold as an observer or spectator, and thus make of it as we will, meaning have a certain attitude or philosophy about it all. The same applies to our human life. So then, what should our all-important attitude be to life on earth? Our overall perspective and general outlook? Actually, this is plainly simple. Think and act as you would like others to think and act towards you, and live your life with faith and trust in the true Lord's will for you, by simply adjusting to the course of events in life in a practical way, while involving the Lord or Master in all your choices, thoughts and deeds. This is what the true Lord or Holy Masters all tell us. By testing this idea for yourself, if you can, and are ready to do so, of course, you will see how much more gently life treats you, despite the karmic events you may face. In truth then, since all that we experience through the five senses is a mere projection from within ourselves, based upon our own karmic script or story, each one of us with a slightly different perspective of the common theme of life that we all share. There is no actual reality to anything that is going on here. It is simply all a drama staged in a dream, as Guru Nanak says. Everything we experience in life then has been created for a certain purpose from within ourselves. So how can we condemn or resent it? Better to have the attitude of seeking the high truth behind it all, as only that will ultimately comfort us, while also occupying our mind in a useful way through practicality, rather than just reacting badly or negatively, or getting carried away with it all. Meanwhile, the movie of our life will carry on, regardless of our views about it. Our protests are not going to make any difference to any authority, whether God, Master or otherwise. Nor is it a good idea to distract yourself in a negative way by turning to drugs, alcohol, gluttony, partying, socializing, bitterness, or other self-destructive activity. Instead, if you view this life as a movie, where you are in truth the spectator, but at the same time are enjoying the movie or divine play as a participant in one of the characters, then that would be a much better approach than continuing to see the play as an actual yet ever-changing pleasure or misery, etc. Along with this, why not keep the real understanding of the whole show firmly in your mind and just take it for what it is, a movie that will end, no matter how good or bad one may perceive it to be. Remember, all things will pass in time. No matter how good or bad they may be, they will surely pass, and only you, the daring spectator, will remain. So, through adopting practical wisdom via holy meditation, let it all pass without losing your balance. Just like summer, winter will come and go, where all one can do is adjust to those events in life. Therefore, one should simply adjust and flow with the events they face, so as to keep their balance via the right attitude. Ultimately, the real you will be fine. You see, no matter what happens, the real or eternal you cannot be harmed. It is only the perception of your temporary character that feels harm or pleasure, not the real you. Therefore, it is the temporary character you that puts a certain spin on it all, good or bad, according to its sanskars or viewpoint. But in truth, that spin is just made up or imagination too. Therefore, if you want peace of mind, it is very important for you to look at this world with the right perspective, where you position yourself as an observer of this play that has been created for you by your own higher self or God. Your temporary participation as one of the characters is simply there to give you an experience of being an actual participant, daringly limited in many ways, rather than just being an observer alone with no limitations. So, the dare or thrill of this participation perspective is the main point of it. The problem comes when you start identifying with the temporary character you have created as your real self, instead of being practical about it. That's when all the trouble starts. Furthermore, the script of your individual participation in creation is actually just a part of the universal script in which your real self, the true Lord, plays all the parts. This means that the true Lord can view the play of its creation through the eyes of individual participants, countless numbers of them in fact, where each participant is but a projection of the true Lord or you itself, given the viewpoint of individuality as well. This includes all participants or viewpoints in creation, from basic life forms to human beings, from angels to demons, from heavenly beings to hell beings, from the deities to the saints, and so on. Now in all this, suffering too is but a teacher for your ever-evolving journey in life, the greatest and most powerful personal teacher in fact, that gradually steers you, the character in the play, towards the right way, according to the law of karma that you are a part of. It's a truly remarkable yet simple and profound design that only human beings in all creation can become fully aware of. Now, as a final point on the all-important matter of right attitude or perspective, from the Supreme Lord's point of view, that all holy masters or enlightened ones speak of, which is also a signpost of our scripted direction in life, a serious question must now arise. Since even our thoughts carry the karmic or life consequences, whether acted upon or not, how do we differentiate between harmful thoughts and neutral or noble thoughts? Well, let's take a closer look from the Supreme Lord's or our higher self's point of view. Firstly, it must be explained that the actual nature or trend of one's thoughts is governed initially by our inherited sanskars or mindset that originates from our past life experiences, unfulfilled desires of the past, and an ingrained philosophy. So, in early life, one will mostly act instinctively or follow their influences, like other animals, till they reach a stage of independent thinking, usually by 9 years old. This early stage of life, therefore, is mostly very limited in scope and depth, where mostly old karma is being paid off, with minimum new karma being created, and so doesn't carry serious consequences, just mindful ones that either cause some mental disturbances later on, or the desperate need for earnest inquiry. That's why children are said to be innocent in their ways, much like pets or other animals in the wild. After that age, however, one starts to create deep desires of some sort, with a defined personality trait based upon one's inherited plus nurtured viewpoint of life, and an emerging awareness with its troubled or noble thoughts of their actual place in the world. So this part of the talk is aimed at this stage of our human development, with its thoughts and deeds implications. Now, to make sense of all this, as a self-observer of the character we are playing, an explanation about what thoughts constitute harm, nobility, or a neutral survival need from the higher self or God's point of view must be looked at, so that will now follow. However, it must be first be explained and accepted that we can only change our attitude and resulting life path if it is scripted for us. Furthermore, a change in our inherent attitude is only acquired through the process of undergoing actual life experiences, coupled with a certain philosophy that we are exposed to at the same time, and not through mere wishful thinking or asking the divine for help. Thus, we have to undergo what we call suffering or trauma to a certain degree in order to change both our attitude and our direction in life convincingly. There is simply no other effective way while in the human form. Now, one may of course use the information provided here to both determine where they are currently at in spiritual development and what is likely required to improve it further. In brief, there are two forms of thought that reflects the position of one's current life path: fully intentional and baseline instinctive, or largely unintentional. For example, looking at the do no intentional harm principle of Sant in karmic existence, then any act of intentional harm, whether in thought, word or deed, would naturally result in far greater retribution than unintentional harm. It is also an indicator of one's level of achievement regarding spiritual progress. So let's examine this aspect in a little more detail. Harmful thoughts and deeds include having bad or selfish thoughts about another being, or of nature and the planet, etc., engaging in damning gossip, acts of hate, anger or revenge, etc., especially without remorse, selfishly engaging in destruction or pollution activities through work or business without any care, and so on. While lesser harmful acts include having innocent thoughts that may be reckless sometimes but never with intentional harm, or innocently sharing gossip that may inadvertently be harmful but not intentionally so, or the accidental killing of insects but with remorse, etc. That would all naturally result in far less retribution. In a similar way, actively seeking mind or physically harming entertainment, like frequent partying or clubbing, indulgent socializing, taking harmful substances or cruelty foods, watching dark or disturbing movies or music, and wastefully indulging oneself in shallow or ego pursuits such as aggressive sports or gaming, gambling or money speculating, vanity or avid fiction book reading, etc., is all considered karmically negative with resulting retribution. In contrast, enjoying one's life in a clean and innocent way, such as having good or noble thoughts with right understanding rather than judgment, blame or condemnation, sensibly enjoying good or noble company, pursuing harmless hobbies that are not mind disturbing, and keeping up with health and well-being practices, wildlife or nature appreciation, and planet conservation or charity work, etc., are all examples of karma neutral or karma positive activities alongside one's spiritual practices. Enjoying these types of peaceful and wholesome activities as a preference to the more negative thoughts and deeds also indicates a greater spiritual progress in one's life, with a naturally better outcome. So that's the way one can quickly recognize one's current level of spiritual progress, even without yet having inner visions or miracles that are mentioned in the books, while also showing where to improve oneself from the karmic perspective. But of course, only naturally through adopting right knowledge and wisely undergoing life experiences as per one's script. So, having now understood this aspect of the mind that we all have, let's now look at the key requirements for personal spiritual development. The three required factors for human spiritual development of wanting and attaining only the highest truth of life is this: desire, opportunity, and ability, in that order. Now let me explain further. Even if one is at first resistant to this journey, but it is scripted for them to start in this lifetime. And even if, let's say, they are currently deemed a villain by society, then the machinery of rescue and change will still happen regardless, and they will evolve and cooperate over time, though with no actual choice in the matter. Indeed, in time, through degrees of suffering and exposure to noble philosophy, they will evolve to ever higher states of thought, with the resulting lifestyle changes to match. As such, this is an example of the fact that nothing is certain in life for anyone, nor can it be taken for granted. Now, regarding a truly spiritual aspirant who has always secretly questioned life, this leads to a natural desire, when scripted, to inquire, an embodiment of thoughts centered around wanting only the high truth of God or Holy Master, etc., as their primary or sole objective at some point in time. Then, having been given the good fortune of this noble desire, whether through personal suffering in this life or through an inherent trait acquired from one's past life experiences, next comes the opportunity to come into contact with enlightened individuals who can both satisfy the inquiring or doubting mind and also effectively teach the high truth. This must then be followed by an ability to practice what is taught, due to having a peaceful enough life and supporting karma. For most of us, however, at every stage of this journey, a certain battle must be fought and won in order to proceed, driven by one's spiritual desire or seeking. This is all part of the drama of life that the Holy Masters tell us about. Indeed, the nature of our thinking and its consequences determines our future life experiences. Like attracts like, and so one who harnesses anger, hate or revenge, however large or small, will be met with the same fate at some point in their life or the next, even if not acted out due to a lack of opportunity or ability in this life. Similarly, one who welcomes lust, greed or jealousy, however large or small, will be met with the same fate at some point in their life story, even if again not acted out due to a lack of opportunity or ability. Likewise, one who is habitually overindulgent in life, seeks animal-like pleasures, and is heedlessly reckless, will suffer the related consequences via poor health and disease or misfortune, etc., at some point in the future, and so on. You see, all desires must be fulfilled at some point, either in this life or the next. Similarly, fantasies too must also be fulfilled or overcome, and cannot be ignored if deeply ingrained, unless one rises above all concerns of worldly living and attaches themselves firmly to the higher truth. A good or noble attitude, therefore, is paramount in seeking and attaining high spiritual goals, through allowing one access to such noble truths, and then providing the circumstances needed to properly meditate, contemplate, or devote oneself to the holy representative of the true Lord of their day. Lesser practices like selfism, cultural religion, mindful philosophy, and general science may likewise be marked for those who are not yet ready to embrace their higher truth. But still, this is an important stepping stone on the road to spiritual salvation, meaning to escape the trap of karmic existence in time. Another point that must be addressed is this: the way of the Holy Masters or Saints, or Sant as it is known in short, is actually created and delivered uniquely by the Holy Master of the day to each and every disciple. For no two disciples are exactly alike, hence no general path can actually exist. So, unlike in religion, science or philosophy, the true spiritual way of the Holy Masters has no general path, no absolute doctrine, and no one way to the highest goal. Only some common truths that relate to all human forms may be presented to the public. Therefore, no two disciples will undergo the same journey, method or route. The journey back to self and God realization is uniquely tailored for everyone. This is why one's personal experiences should not be publicly broadcast, and that's why also most concepts, scriptures and teachings of the various faiths are confusing at best or downright misleading at worst. As such, they cannot be relied upon for individual circumstances. In Sant, therefore, where personal instruction may be given, if scripted, by the Holy Masters and their personal advice, their personal advice is the only way to attain the actual goal we seek. And it doesn't matter what instructions a Holy Master may give to another disciple or in general. It is not meant for you, and thus should not be followed by you, nor is it contradictory. Therefore, in a nutshell, the general teachings given in the books, in discourses, and by the Masters themselves are just that, generalized, and so serve nothing more than reminders, comforters, or as entertainment distraction from life's woe, than actual hard truth. So bear that in mind when feeling overwhelmed or confused by them. Now, as we come to a close of this revelation, if you can grasp the sheer wonder of it all, by reminding yourself of this reality day and night, till it becomes natural to you, while also searching within yourself for the high truth of God, life and creation, then you will cross the ocean of life much more smoothly, and perhaps even entertainingly. So, just do your very best with the right attitude and leave the rest to the Lord, as the saying goes. What else can you do but accept it, and thus simply adjust to the events of life, while keeping the truth of it all firmly fixed in your mind? For those who have a Holy Master in their life, they can also hand over the reins to them, and let them ferry you across the ocean of life, keeping faith in their company, till you reach the shore, for that is their promise to you. So that now ends this brief yet important revelation today. I sincerely hope that this final piece of the puzzle about the apparent inconsistencies in life, even for disciples, and the true role of the Holy Masters not clarified in the books, as well as our own purpose as human beings, has provided some greater insight for the mind, especially for those searching for real answers to the confusing paradoxes they see in life. As Jesus famously said, "Seek only the truth, and that truth shall set you free." Therefore, may the holy truth bless you all with peace and eventual success in this remarkable spiritual journey of human life. So, after that shocking talk, let's get to the questions and answers, unless any of you have a question about it all. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question about dreams and how that fits into the script.
Right. You mean you just want to know in general?
I want to know, because some people have intense dreams, and I do occasionally, so I want to know how that fits into the script and why they're necessary.
Let me first explain what dreams are and the different types. There are basically two types of dreams: emotional subconscious dreams and prophetic dreams. Now, prophecy dreams usually only come when somebody has made a lot of progress on the spiritual path. Their dreams become revelations of what is to come, or a reflection of what's happening around them. Let's put that aside for now. Then the other dreams, the most common form, are really reflections of your own subconscious mind. So whatever is troubling you or bothering you, or even what history you have had, emotional traumas, life experiences, even from the past, can come or be triggered into the form of a dream. So these type of dreams are just karma paying activities. They have no other function. Do not try to interpret them in any other way. Do not try to take meaning out of it, because they reflect to things that you do not know or understand. And no amount of reasoning or investigation will yield any true results. So just accept it that they are paying off karma, or if you're looking at it from a scientific point of view, a reflection of your state of mind, and take it from there. So people have mostly disturbing dreams. They feel disturbed in their life. People have happy dreams are usually happy inside. A simple definition. But the nature of those dreams, the content and the shape of it, also comes from deep within our subconscious, and are usually karmic paying activities. So don't pay them any attention, really. Let them pass.
So there is a point to them.
Yes,
Just
everything
like
has a point.
In this physical experience, we're paying up karma. In the dream state, we're paying up karma.
Yes, yes. But they're also a reflection of where you're at in your emotional state. So you could look at it that way too. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
In relation to the very important revelation that you've given, for which I'm extremely grateful to you.
Hopefully not too shocked. Actually, it all makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. Don't get the emotions involved, because that's when the trouble starts. Yeah.
I want to ask, why did the individualized part of God,
Yeah.
my soul, have a desire to express itself, and therefore by connection, why does God have a desire to express itself? And somebody asked that question and said it was because God wanted to know himself better. I don't like that answer, because
It's not the correct answer.
because it suggests that God is not all-knowing.
Yeah.
I'd much rather prefer the answer that it's the very nature of creation. In other words, if we look at one particular aspect of creation, let's look at matter. When a positron, when matter is created and goes in one direction, antimatter and negatron goes in the other. And therefore, good must have, good cannot be good without the existence of its opposite.
Yes.
And that, to me, explains the creation, explains the pain, the negative aspects of creation. But I just want to add to that, and feel free to criticize my understanding, obviously. I still want to know why. I suppose I've answered the question, actually.
Okay, brother, I'll interrupt you there. I know where you're going with this. We have others as well
I think
who'd
I'll
like to
answer
talk. So, firstly, so why did you, your higher self or God, create individuality? Yeah, why separate itself from itself for the sake of creation?
Yeah, and then I also, furthermore, accepted the script that was laid in front of me. I accepted it before I came down. Right, thank you.
Let me explain this. You are talking about this from the human character point of view, which is a created identity that's not you. Let's look at it from the soul's point of view. So you have the super soul, or the Lord, which is you, in complete form, in a collective form. Now, just like a bird flies, it's not showing off. A dog barks, it's not showing off. A cheetah can run fast, it's not showing off. The inherent nature of these things that we see all around us is a reflection of a higher state of affairs. So, in the Lord's form, it has a natural will and a natural expression ability to express itself in infinite forms. You, as a human being limited to this physical realm, are immensely limited in your understanding of the full scope. So the actual expression of divinity in creation is infinite and varied. Every expression is there. If you look at one expression alone and you say, why is that expression existing? You cannot possibly do that without looking at every other version. of that. Now, because, as I mentioned in the talk, because the Lord can and accounts to no one, but then we're talking about the Lord as if we are somehow separate from that. The separation is an illusion. It's not real. We are actually part of the Lord and always have been. The projection of the Lord into characters, into this play, is created and timed. It is, you could say, a whimsical creation in which all different parts are played for the sake of drama and adventure, not because the Lord wants to know itself, or very other versions I have heard, right? Or even for multiplying love and so on. There's many ways that I've explained, even in the Sant books. The actual truth is, the nature of that divinity is such that it expresses itself in creation. The creation of God itself was also created from nothingness. The original source is nothingness. Where nothing exists, only concept, only will. That will then created Satgurus, or the Lord, with certain framework of ability. And when it was created with the potential for creation. So when creation process started, at the same time as the Lord came into being, who is pure consciousness, infinite varied consciousness, it could only possibly be sustained in that form if there was something to be conscious of. So naturally, creation had to be created at the same time. So along with this consciousness observer, you had also something to be observed, created at the same time. And all of this happened very naturally because of the natural ability of the power that created it, expressing itself naturally, just like a bird naturally flies. It's not trying to impress you. The nature of divinity is such, it's not trying to impress anyone. It doesn't need to. But it expresses itself because of its divine ability and power to do so in every conceivable way, and in ways you have no understanding of. Now, if you look at your individual self or an aspect, and you try to deem the Almighty from that minuscule slice of the pie of knowledge, you will very much be really confused forever. That's why the masters don't try to explain this. They say, go back to the source of your higher self, the Lord, which you are in fact. And then you will understand why. And then you'll say there's nothing to be answered, nothing to be questioned. It just is.
It is. Correct. Sorry, I'm in opposition to say correct. What I meant was I appreciate the answer that the existence is as it is.
Yes.
And also when you said...
it's not for any purpose.
It's not for any purpose.
We humans put a purpose on something.
Yeah.
We, from our limited perspective, have to create some reason.
Yes.
Because that's how we operate with the mind.
Yeah.
But from the soul's realm, there's no rhyme or reason. It's a natural expression of its divinity.
And also when you said that God was created from the will,
yes.
But what answers the questions that might arise from that is that it happened at the same time.
Yes.
It was
creation, God and the creation happened at the same time.
At the same time. Therefore, even though God came from nothing, nothing does not exist.
That nothingness is a term that our language is limited to.
Yes.
When we talk about nothing here, we talk about unmanifested.
Yes.
Something in which only concept exists, but no framework of manifestation.
Yeah.
So I'm using the term nothing loosely.
Yes.
But if you want to be absolutist about this, it's something.
Yes.
It's isness.
It's isness.
It's just isness. Right? And it's not created.
Yeah.
It is self-existent.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't have a beginning, a middle, or an end.
Thank you.
And it's not contained within anything.
Yeah.
Because everything is contained within it.
That's right. It always has been.
Yes.
And
because there's not even that's not tried. Always has been assumes there's time.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no time. It just is.
It is. Correct. Everything's happening here now.
Everything is, and from that level of existence, everything is but a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It lives in a permanent now.
Okay.
There's no past, future, or present. There's just now.
Yeah.
And now is present all the time. You could say this is a very long now.
Yeah, yeah.
But this now contains many moments, all at the same time.
Yeah. In fact, the now is
It's only when it comes into karmic creation that these moments are separated into timelines and spaced out.
that time comes into existence.
And the time, and then these things are spaced out in time to create a story and an adventure. Okay.
Final question.
Yes.
The example I often talk about is the hydrogen atom. That if this fist tennis ball size core is the nucleus of the atom.
A hydrogen atom is only a proton, you know.
It is only a proton in there. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. And the electron, which has to be,
Yes.
because that's a proton is negative, is
Yes.
positive,
Yes.
is 2 miles away.
Yes. When you scale it to the size
When
of
you
the
scale
fist.
it to the size.
Yes.
And as to the question was, and there are two things here. One is there is entanglement. Anything I do here will be reflected there.
Yes.
And that distance could be 1 and 13.6 billion light years that way and that way.
Yes.
Okay. The second question is what exists in between. Yeah.
Okay, let me explain about this in very simple terms. Now, I had done physics as well at Imperial College, so I'm very well aware of particle physics and the mechanism. But I'm going to be very brief because the wider audience are not so aware, so we're going to get too technical here.
It is my final question.
That's fine.
Shut up after that.
Now, like you say, you see, there is a space between in reality, there's quite a large space, disproportionately large compared to the size of the proton and the electron are born brain. So what is in this space? Now, the first thing is, when you look at quantum mechanics, the law of space-time that general relativity bases on the speed of light doesn't exist. This is a problem in science. All these laws break down in quantum mechanics. Therefore, what looks like a space so large may not be the case. Our observation as a person in relative terms to that will see it with our senses, which are geared to operate within the laws of physics that we all understand. However, when we're looking at the particles of a very small nature, they operate under a different law called quantum mechanics. Therefore, the space-time that you associate with the large does not apply to the small. Okay? So that is why there's this mystery from a general science point of view, that why is there such a large space, which means everything is mostly empty space. Yeah? Because even matter, even you, are mostly hollow. And if I fire neutrinos to you, very small, fast particles, they will pass mostly through you, even 1 trillion of them, without ever hitting a proton or an electron. That's how much empty space and gas you are. Right? But this is apparent from our perspective. When looking at it from the gross, then the subtle looks accordingly strange to us. When we enter the realm of quantum mechanics, then we see that actually there's no time at all, which is why quantum entanglement, another aspect of quantum mechanics that puzzles human beings, where if one thing happens to a particle at one end of the universe, the other one, its corresponding mate, let's say, reacts immediately to, without space or time. So this indicates that in quantum mechanics, space-time does not exist in the same way that we as gross individuals observe it.
Thank you. So that's enlightenment.
That's the answer.
Therefore,
Yes.
it's no longer a puzzle.
It's no longer a puzzle.
Thank you.
Right. Anyone else about the talk before we go into the questions?
Can I just ask you a
Yes.
simple practical question
Yes.
about being positive?
Yes.
Is there any harm in watching like boxing?
Yes.
Yeah, because years ago I used to enjoy watching like the UFC and boxing.
Right.
But recently I've just gone off it. I just don't want to watch
Because
it.
you're evolving a little bit more spiritually.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
These are more reflections of where you're at. As I mentioned in the talk, the things you enjoy in life reflect where you're at spiritually. So if you like the dark and gross events of life, you like to know about serial killers and murders and dark, bad habits of gangsters, then that suggests something about you, that you find enjoyment in these things. Whereas, let's say, an enlightened individual will find more enjoyment in more sober things like nature and flowers and bees and butterflies, right? So you have to understand that everything that you like, as an observer, because you can't do anything about it, only bitter experience will teach you So you are moving along your script of timeline of events through experiences. Each experience batters you in a certain way or rewards you in a certain way. And these are directing you through life's journey to the other side. You cannot do anything about it with your own mind. You can't think yourself better or even think yourself worse. You can only go along with the script. So, as an observer of the script, being pulled along with the delusion that you are making choices and impacting upon this script, then what should you do? Only observe. The interesting and fascinating thing about this, if you become a human scientist of yourself, is know where you're at. Now, if you are finding something enjoyable or something not enjoyable or seeking certain things, this is a reflection of where you are. It's interesting. And from that point of view, you should think, if I'm being truly honest with myself, this is perhaps not the right way, but I can't do anything about it just yet. But note it, and don't feed it any more energy if you can than is needed. So, for example, if by now suddenly becoming aware, which is in the script, that you suddenly become aware, you now try to avoid these things, that's a good thing. Try to cut it out until naturally it diminishes you. And the only way that's going to happen is through either bitter life experiences or through meditation and contemplation, rising above it. Then naturally you'll have a more peaceful mind. Yeah? Anyone else?
Just another little question.
Yes.
The whole quantum entanglement thing on a atomic level, do you have that in a karmic level? For example, if a close family member is undergoing suffering, is there some sort of like quantum entanglement which you might feel they're suffering?
I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
But it's because of karma that you're linked.
Yeah.
If you're karmically linked with an individual, according to the script, then you will feel a certain plus or minus feeling with that person. And you can only go along with it. What can you do? But if, for example, you have a philosophy in life that gives you a better understanding and saying that you shouldn't go too far, you shouldn't get too emotionally involved because you're going to break down yourself, or you're going to start judging and condemning and complaining and other things, then hopefully that philosophy will kick in and stop you from going too far. Then instead you say, well, what can you do? You adjust to the events of life. You take a practical point of view. So practically supporting and helping them is much better than dwelling upon all these things from an emotional perspective, because that leads nowhere. Neither does it solve your problem, nor does it help them. So be practical about all these connections you have with people. Yeah? Yes?
You've just talked about being practical
Yeah.
to this young lady.
Yeah.
That's all part of the script though, isn't it?
That's right.
What's going to happen anyway,
Yes.
regardless
Yes.
of...
Yes, exactly right. So as an observer, what you're doing every moment of your life, in the background, let's say your higher mind self. So you have 3 levels of mind: higher mind, middle mind, lower mind. Your higher mind self is spiritual mind. Now, what this mind acts as is an observer. Although it is also the cause of your existence, because of the karmic script comes through the higher mind, you are also able to observe it from that point of view. So it's an unusual thing. Now the middle mind, intellectual mind, and the lower emotional minds react. So the intellectual mind tries to play clever. It tries to use something called logic, reasoning, or intelligence to understand these things. But that is based on limited information, because it hasn't got the whole story of the whys and wherefores of something originally. So it simply creates an intelligent viewpoint. But what is intelligence? It just depends. I mean, we might think we're intelligent, but to an advanced alien species, we might be dumb as ants. Right? So this is very relative. So this middle mind and lower mind hijack events and run away with it. So if, for example, in your script, you have now been told this, which is not in your hands, coming here and listening to such things, and from this day forth you say, I'm not going to take anything in life seriously, I'm just going to go with the flow as the Lord has planned it out for me, and I'm just going to be an observer, a fascinating observer of my own life and what's happening around me. And as a result, learn from the philosophy I have learned and also from life experiences, and know how things are changing. Watch it unfold. Now, when you preoccupy yourself so much with being an observer, you have no time to worry about what's happening. Before you know it, events have come and gone, and you have to simply pass through it fairly quickly. And you think, oh, what happened there? Because you were preoccupied. So being the observer and also appreciating the wonder of it is in your script when that awakens within you. And it awakens within you through higher mind. So when you are put onto the spiritual path and you start doing spiritual practice, the main reason for spiritual practice is for you to awaken this higher mind such that your intuitive understanding kicks in and you see things for what they are. You don't even need evidence. Although the evidence is all around you of how everybody's living their life, trying it the hard way, you decide to opt out, stand back, watch and just go with the flow. Knowing full well through your intuitive understanding that you have been rescued because you've been initiated by a holy master. So all you do is play a waiting game. You're time passing. Because once you're initiated by a perfect living master, your time is over. The rest of your life is just karmic accounting. There's nothing much to do. Now either you can make a big negative meal of this, or you can run along with it and laugh at it all, even the bad things. Yeah? So, but the attitude you have and everything given to you depends on your evolution along this script. So, again, being the observer of it, you can look at where you really are at. You know, when you say, I'm a good person, I'm a spiritual practitioner, I'm this and I'm that, are you really? Be brutally honest with yourself, because by being brutally honest with yourself and looking at the ideals versus where you are at, you can see how far you're away from that goal that you are aiming for. And then, just by the moment you do that, you start reacting differently by automation. It's a really strange thing. Just by being aware of something, at that level, you start to change. It's not immediate, because the lower mind and the middle mind want to have its say.
Can you switch those off?
Can you switch what off?
The middle and the lower minds?
No. They make you. Without them, you'd not have a family. You'd not interact with this world. You just want to go to the cave and sit all alone. And if this creation is to continue, then drama has to be here.
But if you want to cultivate your higher mind, and that's getting in the way...
That's not in your hands. Higher mind is cultivated by the experiences, events that come your way in life. You cannot make things happen other than what's on the script. So when the time comes, higher mind awakens because you have been exposed to certain philosophy in life, and at the same time you've had certain knockbacks, trauma or suffering that turn you away from the world and make you ask questions. So when you combine these two things together, higher mind awakens, but not because you had any control over it. Yeah? Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Isn't the observer and the observed the same?
That's right. Ultimately. But when they're separated, they think they're separate. Yes, you can.
The best thing you can hope for is to just sit in silence.
Ideal to just sit and go along with it, laughingly and smilingly, and just adjust to the events. What can you do? Winter comes. When winter comes, nobody complains, why is winter here? They adjust. They wear warm clothes. They put the heating on. They do various things to adjust. You see, one thing we know is that everything will end. Your life will end to start with, but also everything in between that will end. Everything that begins must end. It's just a matter of time.
The whole thing is pointless.
You can say it's pointless, but this is part of the drama. Is it pointless to go and sit and watch a movie in the cinema? You can't alter the events of the movie. You can't alter the characters.
But ultimately it's pointless.
If you want to view it that way, you're most welcome to. I rather think of it as entertainment. And entertainment is never pointless. It's entertaining. Yeah?
Is it ever going to end like everybody goes back to nothing?
Eventually, but that chapter hasn't yet been written. Yes,
we're in the past. That has not happened.
It hasn't happened yet since the creation.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is it because you can't, or now that he's created everything?
And now we're going to the concept you cannot understand, but since you asked the question, I will try. Imagine you are infinite in power and ability, and you infinitely create for an infinite amount of time in infinite ways. can infinity end? It can change, but it doesn't end. So the truth is, things change. Even going back to nothingness is a change of creation events for a new one to come. But does that mean that it is forever? No. Not as we understand it, and certainly not from the Lord's point of view. There is no beginning and no end. There is just change. The fact that these change occurs over hundreds of trillions of Earth years, let's say, makes it look like it's infinite for us. Yeah, but existences come and go,
So it doesn't
but they
end.
change.
Oh.
It doesn't change. Yeah, it just changes. It doesn't end in the finite time, and it never has, and it has never begun.
Does it end for people who are initiated?
Well, depends what you mean by end. If you
Because
enter
we
into
choose to
Anami
go
Purush,
right.
okay, let me explain the state of Anami Purush. It's my favorite topic because that's where I want to go. You have complete annihilation of existence, of your soul even. You become the beloved. You become the truth, the holy truth. There is nothing but the truth. In fact, the truth becomes so important to you. You are a lover of that truth, more than any love you can experience on this planet. Because in this love, unlike worldly love, you're prepared to be annihilated for it. And therefore, you do not exist even as a soul, even as a concept. You completely merge with the one and become the one, in totality and in every way, never to be resurrected. Whereas in Satgurus, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, where you become one and the many at the same time. So you have the picture, let's say the Lord, and then you have individual pieces that make up the picture, you, the individuals, and you are both one and the many at the same time. So therefore you could be resurrected. You can again come back into creation. Yeah? So there's this flow. But when you reach the Anami, there's no coming back. Yes? Anyone else? Okay, so shall we start the two questions then?
Yeah.
Finally.
Okay, the theme of these questions is living the spiritual way of life.
Okay.
First question relates to perfect living masters. And there's a couple of questions in this statement. Do perfect living masters who initiate others know their future? Are the events of their life visible to them? And do they also see what's in the future of their satsangis?
The answer is yes to all of that. That's a short answer. But let me expand upon it a little more. Just because somebody knows something, it doesn't mean they have to tell. Okay? Masters, and there are different types of masters, perfect living masters who are given the authority to initiate, by their very nature, must know everything that's going on in an individual's life. But it's up to them whether to divulge that information or not, or to play ignorant. Because the nature of the individual they're talking to is a certain level of awareness. And the master's not there to show them in any way, or disturb them in any way. Imagine if you knew that a master could read your mind entirely and know all your most deepest thoughts and everything. You'd probably be scared even to go up to them. But because you see them as a human being, and they portray this, so how are you? You know, the polite conversation, so they know how you are. And they go through the motions of human interaction. So you think, oh, he's only human. Yes, he's master, but well, we'll forget about that for now. Let's interact. Yeah? So masters play the dual game. They're masters of deception. Yeah? They'll even tell you lies to suit yourself. Like Babaji says. He says, yes, when somebody questioned him, let's say, why do masters tell us lies? Because he said, burn all the books. He said, destroy all these talks. They're all misleading. As I've mentioned now, the meaning behind those words is what I've just explained in the beginning, because everything is scripted, and the idea that these books are trying to either make you feel guilty for not accomplishing the things that books say you are. If you look at, say, a lot of Satmar books, I have heard many people say, after reading them, they feel so disheartened that they give up the path. After reading the books. Why? because they give you such high ideals that you are nowhere near and have no chance in your current form of attaining. And they say without these you cannot enter the kingdom of God, and so on. So you think, what's the point then? So in that way they're actually harmful. So I totally agree with Babaji. The books were written at a time when people were very simple. Most of them were uneducated. They didn't have higher thinking abilities. They were in the lower form. As we've evolved as human beings now, we're much more intelligent than they were back then when these books were written. So they simplified the path. And they say, believe the lie until you discover the truth. Then you yourself would discard the lie. Fair enough. So the books exist. However, we've come to an age now where people are questioning the validity of these books because either their personal experience it doesn't match, or it gives them a negative feeling. It gives them an impossible dream or something that they feel they cannot achieve, or it puts them in certain positions of discomfort. And these things have to be addressed. They're asking the right questions because they have evolved higher now. So these books are no longer informative for them and in fact are becoming misleading. So I would say when such a one reaches that point, discard these books. Seek higher knowledge. The highest knowledge you find within yourself, but if you're fortunate to come across an enlightened one who you can speak to directly, you can ask them according to your script, whatever's in your script. But yes, so masters do know the future, they do know what is going to happen, and they do know the story of every satsangi, but that doesn't mean they're going to tell all. Yeah?
Thank you.
Right.
I've got a few questions relating to spiritual aspects of life. What does it actually mean, or how do we live a spiritual life in the modern world where distractions are constant?
You see, there's various, again, looking at, say, the literature, there's information regarding how we should conduct ourselves. We should try as best in our mind to follow those ideals, in the sense that try to do no harm in creation. Try to create the minimum amount of disturbance in creation while pursuing your spiritual objective by constant reminding. Now, yes, traditional Sant has set down this 2.5 hour meditation rule and going to Seva and doing various activities, which is all well and good, but in the modern day that is very difficult to achieve when there are so many distractions for the mind and the mind is not at peace. Then what I would say instead, if that cannot be done, is keep the remembrance of your high objective of life, the spiritual goal, and of the master whom you have encountered, and the teachings forever in your mind. Just by simply remembering this, keeping this in mind with fondness and affection is meditation.
So the idea is that you don't see the distractions then?
Yeah, because you're preoccupied. For example, let's say I meet a girl I'm very much in love. I go to work and everybody's saying hi, hi, hi. I'm just not hearing them. I'm just thinking of my beloved, aren't I? Yeah, and we've all been there, hopefully. And you just think of that one. And it doesn't matter what's going on around you. We happen to do it. So these are real examples that work. But we should find that level of devotion or bhakti towards the Master or the Lord.
Thank you. What is the world of spirits like? I've read in books that many spirits inhabit our homes, but we can't see them because our spiritual vision hasn't opened yet.
Okay. The answer to that is not as simple as that. Let's understand what spirits are to start with. There's two types. Those that you carry with you in your own mind, your subconscious mind, your past entities and experiences which you carry with you and can generate from within yourself. So it's not that they reside in the homes as separate from you. You are the one who manifests them. Demons of the mind, let's say, made manifest. But then there's also the overlap zone, of which we are part of. With a little practice, then an individual can connect with the overlap zone before they get to the astral realm, and they can invite then entities into their space. And these ones, we call them ghosts or prayat or bhoots. Yeah, they have different properties. I'm not going to go into the different types of ghosts. But yes, so these ones you can have a personal experience of, and you become haunted or possessed. So it really depends what you mean by spirits. But if you say they're just spirits roaming around randomly, separate from human beings or separate from the observer, no, that doesn't exist.
Thank you. Still on spiritual aspects, is it also true that negative energies tend to attach themselves to negative people, especially those who don't meditate, and influence them negatively, particularly during these times when there is so much negativity around?
Well, like attracts like. We all know that. So the simple answer to that is yes. The thing is that whilst we are naturally giving off a vibe, negative or positive, and therefore we are creating a connection with a person who's also giving off that vibe, and that brings an attractive force. And we don't know we're doing this, so that's why negative people attract negative things and negative people to them. That's absolutely true. I would rather focus on trying to overcome that. If in their script they come across a positive individual who positively influences them, I would say to them, if they can, follow that one. Keep the company of that one, and don't worry about the negative ones. Don't dwell on these things too much. Don't say, I am damned. Because once you damn yourself or condemn yourself, then there's no way out. Yeah? You will feel that you can never escape. So try to take a more positive point of view. There's never 100% negativity. In fact, this world is a 50-50 mix. This world is between heaven and hell. So you have a heaven on one extreme and a hell on the other extreme, and this world was created in the middle. Those ones who don't fit the heaven criteria or the hell criteria are here. That means that each one of us, our karmas are 50-50. Yeah? Some is good, some is bad, but roughly 50-50 mix. Right? So that means that we will encounter roughly 50% positive things in our life. But we're not receptive. For example, if we identify ourselves to our negativity, then we won't be receptive to the positive. And then we'll claim that only negativity exists. Because you're not receptive. You don't even recognize positivity when it comes. It just goes over your head. You have to wait for your time then, when you're fed up. Because remember, everything is trauma and suffering that teaches you in life. Only through those things, not through reasoning. I can never convince any one of you to do something against your script. I can only give you information that when it comes in your script awareness to start embracing that, you say, yes, he said this, the speaker said that. Now it makes sense. Until that time, it is entertainment. Yeah, I'm just an entertainer here, entertaining you all. Yeah? But some of you may be receptive. And this information is for them, not for everybody. Like when Jesus was giving the Sermon on the Mount, 2,000 people collected and he was at the top. And after giving his sermon in extreme heat, we're talking about the Israeli desert, on the mountain, and he had no umbrella, he didn't have any sevadars around him to take care. He stood in this hot sun, and his hair was dark, not blonde as the Westerners think, but had dark hair. And he gave a speech for roughly over an hour in the hot sun. Beautiful speech, right? Written in the Bible. But at the end of it, when he came to his disciples, only 4 people out of the multitude came forward and said, we want to follow you. So the disciples, naturally being human, intelligent and inquiring individuals, said, Master, because they called him Master. He says, only 4 people out of the crowd came. You spoke to the multitude such wonderful things. Our hearts melted. Yet only 4 people came forward. He said, do you not consider your talk a failure? And Jesus said, no. He said, my talk was only for them. Those 4. The others were just curiosity seekers passing by. It wasn't for them. They were not receptive. So that's the point. When you have a talk, when anybody gives a talk, an enlightened one, he's not addressing the entire audience, because they're all at different places. Some may be thinking of preparing their food for the next day for work. Others may be thinking when they get back they have to take the car to the garage. They have all kinds of thoughts in their brain. They're not actually focused on what you're saying. Only when something resonates with them, they suddenly wake up, oh, let me listen to that. Because they're receptive to that, according to the script. Masters know this. Enlightened ones know this. They don't care. Because if that one person is receptive and makes even a small adjustment to their life, then it's been worthwhile. You see, enlightened ones or masters serve humanity. They don't seek praise or attention. They don't want the clap or the reward. They are absolute servants. And an absolute servant only wants to please. They do not want anything else. So it doesn't matter if the person is grateful or not. They don't do it for that. Because the pleasure in giving is in the giving itself. Because it is the right thing to do. And there is might in right. So masters or enlightened ones act in that vein, completely different to humans who are always trying to broker a deal. You know, the mind is always a deal maker. Okay, you give me something, I give you. I'm only here because you're going to give me something.
Transaction.
Some transactional concept. But enlightened ones don't think like that. They give without condition, unconditionally. And they don't have to try even. It is part of their nature. They don't have to work at it. They don't have to think about it. You know, there's no calculation involved. So things are different according to who you are and what level of attainment you have attained.
Thank you. I've got a few questions regarding spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
How do we keep the fire of longing alive when the path feels dry or progress feels so slow?
Ride it. Don't challenge it. Ride it. When the path feels slow and dry, accept it. Go along with it. Be the observer. Just watch and see what happens. Because surely, if you are having a good period and now you have a dry period, the good period will come. We know that life is change. Nothing is forever. Even the whole universe is evolving from one state to another. You cannot be static. Don't empower this negative thought by thinking this is it now forever. No. There is no forever. There is only change. And you don't know if tomorrow you'll suddenly wake up and think, oh well, to hell with this. Let me get back onto the spiritual practice. So when a dry period comes, ride it and accept it. Don't lose heart. Just wait. Then in time something will come that will trigger you again. And you'll be fine again. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge others. Don't look that others are better than you. None of this. The whole idea of you being the hero or the central figure of your own story is that it's all about you. This is the only time where you're entirely allowed to be selfish. When it comes to your understanding and your personal progress and transmigration through life, it is only you that you should be focused on, not anyone else. Anything you do in the world is just karma. Who you owe, lena dena, give and take, right? There's nothing to these things. No amount of helping humanity or not helping them is going to make any difference to your personal progress. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. But whilst you are here, certain masters give you instructions, say, you know what, say plant trees and help the planet and do this and that. Why not? Why not do something, let's say, nice for others, for the unenlightened others, whilst you're here? Just because you've been saved doesn't mean you just sit back. Why not do something? Why not contribute nicely if you can? Or don't contribute at all. But it's not necessary for your spiritual progress, because spiritual progress only comes by being pulled. You cannot push your way. You cannot make any effort on the path. It's just that your understanding and the things you do coincide with the pull. So let's say you're pulled towards meditation. So now you start meditating. The dry period ends. Then you just thank the Lord. Thank you, Lord, for giving that pull. Now I'm meditating again and enjoying it. Always accept that you're not the doer, that you're being pulled. Therefore, if you're not the doer, why complain about a dry period? Everything's in the hands of the Lord. Let it pass. Ride it. And do whatever you can practically. Even if it means doing something in the world, you all have duties and responsibilities, karmic obligations. Fulfill them. And don't worry about the dry periods. Let it pass.
Because if you were observing, you'd observe that you're having the dry patch.
That's right.
And just think it's not going to last forever.
That's right.
Move
For example,
on.
winter. We all know that winter will come. It's not going to last forever. We know that it will eventually pass because this is a world of change. Nothing is permanent. So when a dry period comes, we know it will pass. Why do we try to make it worse by emotionally engaging on it and say, this is it forever now? I'm useless, I've wasted space, I've lost the plot.
But it's the mind, isn't it, thinking, I shouldn't be having a dry period, I should be a bit more advanced.
That's the mind, you're right.
Yeah.
It's the thinking, it's not the reality. It's the nature. Yeah? But what I'm saying, since the person asked the question, they're meant to hear the answer, and hopefully maybe others might be having this in their mind, then let it pass. Don't feed these dry periods with any negative thinking. Don't try to question or analyze them. Just say it is in the script. Right? Put the blame on the Lord. Say, Lord, when you awaken me again, then I'll be most appreciative. Yeah? In the meantime, I'm going to go and do whatever I have to do. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you. Next question. I've been initiated, but I've drifted from regular practice. What is the most effective way to rekindle that inner pull?
Again, the answer has already been answered here because, the pull has to come from within. Now, if they have a capacity to have some little input, let's say they want to read the books, listen to discourses, maybe listen to this, might be enough to kickstart them. If they have the capacity to do these things, then do them. But don't expect anything. Because everything is scripted and the outcome is determined. Don't expect anything, be the observer. Now imagine you're an observer, how wonderful it is. Just be detached from the whole show. All the worry goes, all the stress goes. But you're just marveling at it all. Even if you're the subject of the observation. You, the character, are going along and say, look at me. Your higher mind is telling your lower mind how stupid you are. Look at you, getting bothered about this, getting upset, crying over these things. Take a practical point of view.
It's almost like having an out-of-body experience because you're looking at yourself.
We can do that. All humans can do that. In fact, in ancient yogic systems, the idea of empowering the chakras was exactly for that. So as you empower higher chakras, they could look at the base chakras and control them. They could stop them from having their way. So this was a mastery of the energy systems of the body. By mastering the energy system of the body, you had powers, what they call riddhi siddhis, abilities to control things. Yeah? And even as you went higher, you could even control things in nature, like levitate and fly in the sky. Yogis in the past did this. For us now, this is a miracle. But for yogis, it's just a matter of development. Yeah? So, it is possible for us to, when we have that within us, to take a positive point of view in everything. If we're that way inclined, if we're thoroughly miserable in our heart, then we'll carry on being miserable until we get fed up. Once we get fed up of being miserable, we'll say, to hell with this. Then the timing will come that somebody positive will come into our life, and we'll be so enamored by them. Say, right, I'm going to follow this one, I'm going to do this, or this book, or this thing. Yeah? And they think that they're doing all these things. If you think you're the doer, that's when the problem starts, because then you feel responsible and you feel damned. But if you're the observer, looking at the whole show, even if yourself, and you know that all other characters in the play, all family members and friends, are all part of your play. Yeah, they're all part of you. They're all yourself in another form. Then you take a much more broader view, and you become fascinated. And when you become fascinated, awestruck, then you're frozen in wonder. Then what is there to concern yourself with? Because by the time you've come out of that wonder, the situation has passed.
It sounds easy that you can easily make the switch from thinking that...
I'm only telling you if you can.
Yeah, this is it.
But some people out there will be able to do it. Some people already have practiced a little bit. They've read it somewhere, just be the observer to play.
Yeah.
And they already started this. I'm just maybe helping them a little bit along the way. But sure, those people who are intensely ingrained in being miserable, their time has not come yet. Let them be miserable.
Or it might not be that. It could be a case that they feel they've put in the effort, so something's going to come as a result of that.
Yeah, if they want to, think like that. I mean, what can you do? Then go along with the flow. Whatever comes in your heart, follow it.
Sure thing.
But there are some principles try to avoid. I mean, there are certain do's and don'ts, because you're the one who's going to suffer. If you try to get something through harm, causing harm to another, then that's not going to help you really. Ultimately, you will get maybe that thing, but you also have a great deal of consequence. So there's certain principles of do no harm. Outside of that, do your best. What can you do? When you have a very positive and detached attitude to the whole thing, you watch yourself as an observer and test it, then you'll see the life events carry on regardless, without your input. It's still going on. Whereas right now you think, if I don't do this, if I don't do X, Y won't happen. And people actually believe this. But then if you're compelled to act, then you have to act. What can you do? Neither can you not do it, neither do you have to do it. If part of your character says you have to go there and speak to that one, then do it. But in the back of your mind, the higher part of your mind is an observer, watching the whole thing unfold. Okay, let me do my best, but I'm remote from it. Let's see how it pans out and laugh at the whole thing. Don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
That's the practice of meditation, contemplation, and higher thinking, developing higher thinking through contact with higher thoughts, definitely help with this. It's not something you could just do just because I told you.
Sure.
I'm explaining to you what is possible. Whether it's possible for you today, maybe not. Tomorrow, who knows? But the possibility is there. The practical approach is there. So some of you will be able to do it. Others will say, okay, I'll bear that in mind, make a note, and I'll come back to it when I've left my misery.
Because in a way, the human condition is to take part in life, do the things that you're told to do, or work
You're compelled
hard.
to act.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
Four
you're compelled
things.
to. But why not add a layer of understanding to it? Why just be the participant? Why try not to be also the spectator or the observer of it? That's the whole idea of spiritual practice, taking time out to meditate, to rise above the goings on in the world. So now you become an observer of it. You watch the whole show unfolding, even you, and you have a good laugh about it. You know? So from the Lord's point of view, that's the ideal. And human beings can do that.
Yeah.
And many do at different levels. Yeah? And as you advance, you laugh even louder. But you have to contain your laughter. Even if somebody dies, you have to pretend that you're sorry. I'm sorry to hear of your loss. You have to play the part. The reality is it's just part of the play. Why are they crying about it? Move on. Because time moves on, you're moving along your script. Just move on.
Thank you. Okay, the last question relating to spiritual practice. How can we cultivate the courage to release past conditioning and release false limitations?
It's not a question of courage, it's a question of opportunity and ability. As I mentioned, first you have to have the desire. To do anything in life, three things must be there: desire, opportunity, and ability. First, the desire must be generated in your mind to make a change. And that comes from the Lord. That comes from the script. Then you have to be presented the opportunity to make that change. Again, it's in your script. The karma has allowed you to come into contact with a means by which you have the opportunity to put that into practice. And then you have to have the ability to do it and see it through. Yeah? So these three things govern everything in our life. Sometimes we fail at the first hurdle and it never goes anywhere. You have a desire, it never comes to anything. Then you might have a desire somewhere else and an opportunity arises, but you can't utilize the opportunity because you don't have the ability to do so. Then sometimes you have the desire, the opportunity and the ability, but it doesn't come to anything because it's payback, it's karma. So therefore it comes to nothing. A lot of people complain, I put so much effort into that, this, so much effort, and nothing came of it. So that's not why you're here.
Yeah.
But the way we are taught in education institutions and other places, even by our parents, is that you must achieve something. You must attain things, otherwise you're a waste of time, of existence. No, that is not why you come in the human form. Animals are different because they're only paying off their karma. They don't create new karma, and they don't have any ability to think or reason anything around them. That faculty is missing from them. So for them, they go along what we call instinctively. Yeah, and therefore there's nothing to contemplate or to wonder about. Humans, however, are created uniquely different. And why have they been given the ability of vivek, or discernment and reasoning? is because they have this higher mind concept awakened within them, even at a low level, that makes them human. And this higher mind can seek and implement things which the animals cannot. So what is this there for? Is it really to build an empire, to have hundreds of children and to have lots of money in the account, or to attain something? No. This faculties has been given to you to introspect, to examine your life as an observer, because the higher mind can look as an observer. Look at the whole show, see it for what it is, and go with the flow, whilst focusing its attention higher up. Because now it knows the reality of things, then why does it engage in them? Then it, by awakening the higher mind, automatically lower mind and middle mind are subdued. It's not that the higher mind has to argue with them. Yeah, that's a very Western idea. Naturally, when higher mind is awakened, the middle mind, intellectual mind, and especially emotion mind are subdued. They don't have much of a say. They might initially there, because you still are a human animal, you have an instinctive reaction. So for example, if I was to tap you, go around in a fluster, but within seconds you come to reason and understand. And you stop carrying on the reaction. You don't try to run away or hit me. Yeah? Whereas an animal would. An animal reacts instinctively alone. We can see that even if you're trying to save an animal, it will still try to attack you and bite you. It doesn't understand what you're trying to do. You see? Humans are different, hopefully. If they're not human animals, they've risen a little bit above because they've come to a talk like this, let's say, so therefore they have some higher awareness within them. That higher awareness subdues the lower element. So then they're able to behave differently in the same circumstance than another human being or human animal who is just in animal mode. Yeah? So hopefully that gives some sort of answer.
Thank you. Okay, changing the topic now. We've got a question about death. What happens to a person after death? In some near-death experiences, people report suddenly finding themselves in a tunnel. Does the world around them disappear at that moment? Please explain this in detail, specifically for both initiated and non-initiated individuals.
Okay, well I have spoken about this at length several times, so I'm really going to summarize this again. There are other talks that they can listen to which go into detail. Firstly, to correct the idea that, about death. The interesting thing is this. So let's look at their death from a non-satsangi point of view. So a person not really much, vast majority of individuals. When they actually die, they don't know they're dead. It's a really strange phenomenon. So closely linked is their astral form with their physical form, because they look identical, that when one passes into the astral form, they don't actually know they've died. Now, even when they're looking at themselves on, say, the operating table or in that crash scene or something, and they think, that looks like me. But it doesn't occur to them that they have died, because they had no change of feeling. They're still aware of themselves exactly as they were before. This is a really interesting point. And when you speak to near-death experienced people, a lot of the time they say they weren't aware for a bit of time. Now, awareness comes in when they try to interact. So you'll hear often people with near-death experience say they try to speak to the doctor, say, no, I'm here. They're resuscitating bodies, say, no, I'm alive and everything, and you can't understand why they are making such a fuss. Eventually you realize that that is you there, and you must have died. But absolute confirmation comes from either the Ramduts or the Yamduts. Let's talk about conventional death, not near-death experience. In conventional death, you don't come back. Okay, there's two types of beings that will greet you: what we call Ramduts or Yamduts in Sanskrit, right? Which is a pretty accurate description of what it is. Even before you died, the interesting is this. Even before you died, because the script is already written, what's going to happen next is already predetermined. So, this is why, at the time of your death, the Ramduts or the Yamduts know when to come. And also which one is going to greet you. They know the balance of your life. If the balance of your life has been mostly good, then you'll get the Ramduts, or the angelic beings. Yeah? If it's mostly bad, you get the demonic ones, or the yanduts. Right? Now they come in advance because they know, even before you die. They're waiting.
They'll show you a sign of
Huh?
some sort. Show you a sign of some sort.
They show you, no. They know.
Okay.
They know even months in advance before you die that who is going to greet you.
Oh yeah, you don't know this yet. Okay.
You don't know this yet. Up to 5 months before. 5 months before your death, the mechanism of death has already kicked in anticipation of greeting you. Isn't it interesting? You don't know all this. You're thinking you're going to live forever, you're carrying on with your life. Yet the machinery of death is there in place. So when you die, then you will immediately awaken into a dream state. What you think is a dream, but it's not. It's your reality. It's your reality at that time. And it's still you. You're still fully aware of yourself and you look like you. So in every single way, your scenery has changed, but you haven't changed. And because you identify with yourself, the scenery is only confusing to you, but it doesn't impact on your self-awareness. So strong is this identity you have with yourself. So, then at the time of death, proper death, we're not talking about near-death experiences, put that aside, there's lots of description about this. At the time of actual death for a non-initiate, then either a Ramdut or a Yandut will come and greet. Firstly in the distance, and then slowly come closer. So they'll all report seeing a light, because they're both made of light. Why? Because everything in the astral realm is light. So it doesn't matter, they can't differentiate between good or bad light. From us, we consider light to be something good and dark to be something bad, only because we fear the night. Yeah? In the astral realm, everything is light. So until they come close to you, you don't know what this light represents, if they're Yanduts or Ramduts. Yeah? So they come, and only when they present themselves to you that you suddenly realize they're maybe not angelic beings, they're demonic beings. And they drag you, literally. The Yanduts drag you to the court, or to the overlap zone, where you're put in what they call a penitentiary, like a holding place for 49 days. You're held there. But even though you're sitting there for 49 days waiting for your trial, the trial has already happened 5 months before you died. All the evidence was presented and your next life already decided. In fact, before you die, you may already be born, being inside the mother's womb, in another form, not yet born, but there, waiting. Even before you're dead, 5 months before you're dead. Yeah? It's so automatic, this process. Why? Because it's pre-scripted. So we then go through this trial as an observer of ourself, our current character self. Okay, you're still in character when you die. You're still the character self. You're still deluded by that. You still think you're an individual and so on. And you're going through a certain fate that is unknown to you. So you go through all the experiences, but everything's already been decided. So then, after the 49 days, you are tried. You play the entire video of your life is played before you. And all the good goes on one, all the bad goes on the other, and it's weighed up and decide your fate. In this court, you have absolutely no say. No one's going to ask you for any mitigation, any explanations, or anything. You can submit nothing. You are just an observer, and you really understand what it means to be an observer of the script. Because this is taking place, and you're just watching the show. And all you can do is bow in agreement. What can you do? Then you're whisked off to the next birth. So that's the simple explanation, let's say, of what happens when you die as a non-initiate. When you're initiated, things are a little different. Because when you're initiated, the same thing happens, but this time 3 days before your passing. So 3 days before your passing, the master is there to greet you. Sometimes an initiate can see the master visually, like they can see their mind's eye. They're actually looking at it through the third eye. They're not seeing with the physical. I have to explain. There's no physical presence. But they attention raises, and they're able to see through the third eye the master. And the master is smiling at them and comforting them. Maybe even giving instruction. So the person feels comforted. Doesn't always happen. They feel a presence, but they may not see. It just depends on how much practice they did, what their attitude is in life, and so on, to what degree the master appears to them and comforts them. Okay? But definitely the master appears. If you're initiated, master will appear, even if you're a lousy disciple. Then upon your actual death, the master greets you. No ramduts or yamduts. However, because you are crossing the overlap zone where they reside, their natural thing is anybody entering my realm, I've got to investigate. So the ramduts and yamduts both come. Why they both come in this case? Because they don't know who you are. They don't know what's the story with you. The master has taken over your karmic account. It's in his hands now, right? But the ramduts and yamduts say, according to the script, that you're dying at this time. And therefore you have to be collected. But neither of them can agree which one is going to collect you, because you've been initiated. And that karmic account of the past has been blocked by the master. So the master stands as ransom. And this is made apparent when you die and the master greets you, because the ramduts and yamduts will come there and stand their distance. They cannot approach you or touch you, because the master shows himself to them and they freeze. They can do nothing. They will protest a little bit and say, but he belongs to us. We are the collectors of the dead. But the master says, no, this one belongs to me. And he shows his credentials, usually by raising his hand, and an eye of knowledge, wisdom, the third eye is there in the hand. They see this, and that's how they recognize who this one is. And then they move away. Reluctantly, but they move away. So you witness all this as an initiate. Then the master greets you well and starts giving you instruction. So again, a video of your life is played out, but this time without judgment. It's more about how it was. How was it? It's a bit more friendly than what have you done with your life to show me, which happens in the court. Yeah, master says, so how was it, friend? How did you do? Let's see. And it shows all. He said, oh, never mind. He said, we'll have to catch up now. So the attitude is very positive, and he said, right, we'll have to make up some time here. You didn't quite do your work that's required, so let's catch up now. So the master puts you in a certain position, or you're reborn. So this is where you have a discussion, because master can say either for you to be reborn, if you choose to, or you can finish off in the astral realm and carry on from there. So you're given that choice, you could say. But actually it's not a choice. Everything is scripted again, even with the master. However, the master playing the game again in the karmic realms. Remember, the game has to be played all throughout the karmic realms. Only outside the karmic realm, the actual truth is shown to you. And then you laugh about it all. How clever was the deception? Anyway, the master says, well, I'm going to give you a choice. And this choice is made. Scripted, of course, but you don't know that. Even at that point, you don't understand, he's still following the script. All astral beings are following the script of life. The interesting thing is that in the astral realm, everybody knows what is to come. No one, let's say, enters the astral realm without knowing their entire story. But it doesn't mean that they can't go along with it or enjoy it. That's like saying we know what is to come in a movie, but we still enjoy it. Our human understanding here is that surely if they know everything has to happen, good or bad, what's the point? Famous human words, what is the point? Yeah, that's the famous catchphrase, right? In fact, in humanity above the earth, it should say, what's the point for all aliens to come and see? Because that's what they all say. What's the point? Yeah, and that's from ignorance. An ignorant one that says, what's the point? Yeah. So, but they don't. In the astral realm, everybody else is going on with their script. They know what is to come. They still enjoy or feel sad at the appropriate times. The emotions and the feelings that accompany the script are still occurring. It doesn't change the fact that they know the script. It doesn't make any difference to how they feel. It's interesting. Anyway, so in the astral realm, everybody's following the script. So what happens when a disciple dies, a master takes account? Then he proportionately applies the karma that you have given in this life, and maybe borrows a little bit from the past, even though, because maybe you don't have enough to continue in this life physically. So sometimes Master has to borrow some karma from the Sinchit karmas. So although Masters say we erase the Sinchit karmas, they don't erase, they stand as a barrier. It's still there. Nothing is erased. Yeah, it's there, but they may have to borrow a little bit just to make up the life, right? And then you're sent down and given another birth and so on, and to account for however you live your life, and you carry on from there. Then you'll be initiated by the master at the time. Yes.
When is your memory wiped? Like during that process of your previous life, when do you stop remembering anything that happened in that?
When you enter into the fetus.
Right. Okay.
So when you enter the fetus of a newborn, then your connection with the past is lost, but not completely so.
Right.
There is still a vague, let's say, recollection of where you come from, but not detail. It's like if you try to remember a dream, you can vaguely remember the dream, but not in detail. So the position of a fetus is exactly the same as a soul in a fetus form.
Right.
They have some kind of awareness, but not fully. Usually by the time they start talking is when it completely goes.
Right.
So even when born, a child might still have a feeling that they belong to this country, or they come from here or something. They can't express it or do anything about it. They also understand life more, about what is to come. They have a little preview of what is to come, but they can't speak. Yeah, that's why children cry a lot, because they know what is to come. A child who has a very peaceful time ahead, they'll be peaceful children.
Right.
A child who cries a lot when they're young is because they know what is to come. But the moment they're able to speak, then that immediately goes. They have no recollection at all.
Right.
It's an interesting design.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? No, that's it. Oh no, go ahead. Yes.
Let's say you're initiated in the last birth, and then you're associated with two masters. In this life, then who comes?
Usually the last one who initiated you. However, both may come. Let's say you are connected with both. Why not have both? Yeah, no harm in that, is there? They'll both come. But the one who determines your future will be the last one who initiated you. Unless the last master who initiated you was not a PLM. It may be the case that you were initiated by a PLM and then you went to a lesser master and they initiated you. Then the PLM, they will both come, but the PLM will take charge. Does that answer the question, sister? Yeah. Great. Yes, go ahead.
So, if you're not initiated,
yes,
does that mean the master will not be there?
Not necessarily. You see, okay, initiation is a formal acceptance of soul and supersoul, of master and disciple, right? A formality for the mind. Initiation actually takes place at the level of the soul, real initiation, between the supersoul and the individual soul, not at this level. What happens at this level is, let's say, a ceremony, right? A created ceremony for the mind. So, it may be the case, and the way you can tell this is this. Let's say you met a perfect living master in this life, and you have a strong affinity for them, a strong association, but you never got initiated. They passed away. Then you're initiated. They will still come for you. Because initiation comes because of pull. That's what the initiation is, the pull between lover and beloved. If that is present, no ceremony needed. It's just that you weren't given the information of how to meditate and how to make of it something. That's all. In fact, there's a great story from Great Master's time that Ishwarji used to tell us about. He said that there was this very poor man in Delhi at that time who had a picture of Great Master that he'd been given, and he was told that this master is going to save you, the salvation and blah blah. He was a Sikh, but he was so poor he used to just polish the shoes, a little bit men's shoes. That was his job. He himself had no shoes. He couldn't afford a pair of shoes, but he would sit in the Delhi streets under the archway and do his bit. Okay, and in his heart he longed so much to see the physical master and be initiated by him. He heard so much. He was so pulled, he couldn't stop thinking day and night. So in his work, he saved enough rupees to start his journey. And he told his wife, I'm going. And he wanted to go to Dera. And he was in Delhi. Now Dera's in Punjab. Yeah, that's some 8 hours by train. So you imagine how far he had to go. He had some money for maybe a bus here or there, maybe sitting in a tonga and being carried by the horses and donkeys. And he slowly, by walking, by different methods, he got there. Eventually, months later. Right? And he suffered great hardship. You know, the heat and food shortages. He could just get here by donation. Somebody just give him some food, feeling sorry for him. He didn't care about life or death. He just wanted to be initiated. So eventually he arrived in a very poor condition at the gate of the Dera. And the Sevadars greeted him, just was shocked at his pitiful state. And it just so happens that there was a satsang at the time, in that evening. So he was told to sit at the back. And he sat there, and he just stared at the master. And when the satsang finished, he remained sitting. He didn't move. And obviously the Sevadars noticed, hold on, there's this fellow just sitting here. He's not moving, and in such a pitiful condition. They informed Great Master, what should we do? He said, oh, bring him to me. He said, I know this fellow, bring him to me. So the Sevadars went up and said, please come with us, sir. Great Master wants to speak to you. And he got so happy in his heart, because he didn't know how to approach. He was an illiterate. You know, if there was the lowest caste possible, he was it. Uneducated, illiterate, nothing. So he didn't even know he could just go and ask for anything. Like, you know, you learn about the deities and the divinity, they come to you. If they want you, they come. Yeah, you don't go to them, it's disrespectful. So he would sit there, just waiting, and Master called, and Master knew this, so he called him. He knew he wouldn't come otherwise, he would just stay there, sitting. So he called him, and then this man immediately fell at his feet and said, Master, forgive me for my condition. I've come a long way. He said, I just want initiation from you. And Great Master said, what again? He said, Master, this is the first time I'm meeting you. He said, I've never met you before. He said, you were initiated the moment you left home. I initiated you then. And I kept you in surviving condition. You would not have made this journey in the way you planned. You would not have survived. I kept you here for this moment. He said, now I will give you instructions. That's what I can do now, to tell you how to meditate. So I'm hoping that answered the question. If you have that affinity with a perfect living master, you feel a strong connection with the path, then the master will definitely greet you at the time of death. No question about it. Even if you're not initiated. Initiation is a ceremony that marks for the mind the start of your journey. But it's not for everybody. Not everybody has that ability. What if a Bedouin Arab happens to come across the existing master, they see a picture, and they fall in love with his face, they feel such a love. They have no chance of leaving the Sahara Desert, ever. Master will still come for them. So, that's what I'm saying in Sant, the way the book's presented, and even sometimes the way the masters talk, is not clear-cut. Generally, the majority view is that you go to living master, they accept you, you get initiated, you give an instruction, you practice. And because that's the majority view, that is the only way we understand it. In our limited capacity, we do not understand the magnificence or grace, or even the script of our own destiny. So we can be initiated. That's for you to decide whether you have that pull, that longing, strong longing, that allows you to be initiated without physically meeting the master. If that not has already come, then it may come in the future. Or it may have already come. But you can decide. That's what it's based on.
But how would you know if it's already come?
Because you'll feel the pull. You feel the pull and you feel certainty. You feel confidence. When you get initiated, a certain confidence comes in you. You feel certain. So you don't have to ask whether I'm initiated or not. You feel, or even that the master will come. You feel the master will come. And if I ask you, how do you know? You say, I don't know. I just feel it so. I feel it strongly so. Then nothing to worry about. But you still have time left on this planet. So if that hasn't already happened, build it. Then you don't have to worry. As long as you have physically seen the master somewhere, you can be initiated by that one, anyone. Yeah?
Even if the master is no longer.
Even if the master is not here. Yeah. Yeah. But then you have to come back physically. There's no question about it. You'll have to come back again and be present during the time of initiation, because you weren't given the instructions and so on. There's a law. Remember I talked about the karmic law being absolute. There's an absolute law. But does it matter? You waited this long, who cares? You know, the astral beings will give up everything to have the worst day of your life, one day of your life here, just to be initiated, just to come into contact with a perfect living master. They understand there in the astral realm. Yeah? The worst day of your life, they'll give up everything that they have for that. But we here are miserable beggars, proud beggars. We think we're owed so much. We have no idea how many beings there are in creation and how fortunate we are to be here. And we ask questions, we question. But again, that's our script. See, we have no choice. Yes?
Going back to that story, ISTAuk story,
yes.
That person you were discussing, he got initiated inside, didn't he?
Yes. It's spiritual initiation. Initiation is between souls. It's not with the mind.
Why is it necessary to be in the physical form?
Why does it have to be? Because you have to be present at the time the master is present. There's a universal law. Yeah? Karmic law has a law associated with it. And this law has ground rules. And one of those ground rules are, if you have to be physically present to create karma, for example, or to experience karma, you have to be present when the other one is present to create a karmic connection, to create a connection. You cannot be connected with something that you're not present in.
Yeah, but the masters at all levels, so those beings at all those levels,
they still observe karmic law. Even a master is karmically bound. He's given a karmic body. Do you not see masters of flesh and blood? They have the same karma you have. They have the same illnesses, ill health, difficulties in life. The difference is they are fully aware. They have another level of awareness that you do not have. But in order to convey that to you, they come here and inherit a karmic body. They take on a karmic body, borrow a karmic body, come here and live that life.
I understand that. But you're talking about you have to be present when the master is present.
That means you have to be in this life.
So why can't you be present when the master is present in the astral?
Because you cannot be initiated in the astral. You can only be initiated in the human form here. That is the law.
But yet you said that person got initiated inside.
He got initiated within, from soul to soul, because he was present here in the physical realm, and Master was present in the physical realm. Yeah? If Master had passed, and he got to hear of the Master once he'd passed for the first time, not being in the physical, then there would have been no chance. That is the law. It's not complicated.
So all those people who neither been initiated or know of any living masters, when they die, and you talked about Ramdut, and
Yamdut and the Dharamrai
who
court.
decides their fate?
There's two answers to that question depending what level you're talking about. Ultimately the script, okay? Let's say the superscript of divinity decides. Within that script, who is the one who announces it? The Lord, the court, the Dharamrai court. So Dharamrai court has an exacting method of assigning karma to the relevant individual. So they're the ones who dispense the karma for the life. So they create the karma that is going to happen for that next being even before the person has left this physical world. Yeah? It's already been decided. So that's why you go to the court. Otherwise, why go to a court? You only go to the court to be sentenced. Yeah? So there's a very, very simple system.
Is that court also an illusion?
Everything is an illusion. The entire karmic system is an illusion. But because you believe it, it affects you. The interesting thing about illusion is, if you believe it is real, it's going to affect you. The moment you are convinced 100% is not real, because you have experienced it not being real, then there's no reality to anything. Yeah? It's not a question of you just saying in your mind, this is not real. Doesn't mean anything. You have to experience it as not real. You have to reach that state of awareness where you know it is not real. Then when you say this is not real, it means something. Yeah?
But
yes?
If a person believes throughout his life that he led a good life, not done any harm to anyone, and at the time of his death, he's obviously left his life on earth knowing that he's done everything that he should be, no wrongdoing.
I'd like to meet such an individual. I've never met one yet. The last one I met was a master. But anyway, let's say some fictitious character did exist and they did no harm at all and they lived a perfectly good life. Firstly, they shouldn't be here, they should be in heaven, I would say. But let's say by some miracle they turned up here, then what's the question? Does one such a one exist? No, it's a story in the books.
All the people who've seen the master and then forget about him, and have they sowed a seed, or will they get benefit from that?
A little. But if there's no impression upon the mind, and there's no bond, what can they expect to get from that?
So isn't it a karma they create?
Yeah, it's just a karma that they happen to glance upon this individual. But even that, the fact that this person is introduced to them as a fleeting being, means that in the next life, within 10 lifetimes, they will definitely be initiated. So when you have this fleeting glance of a master, within 10 lifetimes you'll be initiated.
There's a chance.
Oh yeah. Nothing here is coincidental, it's all part of the script. Yeah? But that's what I'm saying, if you're an observer of the script, and you step outside being just a participant, but you also observe, it'll make much more sense to you, the way things are all panning out. And you think, aha, the moment of truth, right? This and that. So even though nothing's actually happened, let's say this life, the fact that you are observing this creates a fascination and a wonder within you. Yeah? So you know, okay, that means so and so within 10 lifetimes. Don't worry about it. Yeah? Anybody else?
Is every soul destined to eventually evolve spiritually?
Yes. Every
single. So we've all been through different life forms, trees, fish.
Yes. But what about the beings in the astral realm and the causal realm? Even Krishna will have to surrender his post and come here and become mortal. But that's a long time yet. Yeah, a few trillion years.
So we're all on the same path, but just at different stages.
Everything that's being created has to come back to the fold in the end. Everything. The question is, how long? Not if, but when. Yeah. Anyone else? No? Okay, let's go to the next question then.
I've got a question about negative entities.
Okay.
Do negative entities ever attack initiated souls during meditation? And if someone has received initiation but does not meditate, does the master still protect them in such times?
The answer is yes and yes. Now let me expand on that. You see, any entity, negative or otherwise, will only appear to you because you have a previous association with that. Nothing will come into your life that you don't have an association with. So remember that. You can't put the blame to somebody else. Somebody sent you this, or somebody's done something to you, jadoo or some black magic or something. No. Everything that comes your way is because you have an association with that according to the script. Now, the type of association you have depends on what the script is all about and what your connection with them, what part they have to play in your story. So sometimes they're negative, sometimes they're positive. So negative entities comes to those individuals who have had a contact previously or an association previously with that negative entity, and there's unfinished business. And once that unfinished business is done, they never come back. They never meet again. Okay? So, meditation when one is initiated, is the easiest way to overcome these entities. Now in meditation, these entities can come. Because you have, remember, what is the universal law by now? Karma, the script. Yeah, forget all the teachings of the books. The script is everything. So let's say you're initiated 100 times over, and you're meditating, and you have an association, unpaid account with this negative entity, then they'll definitely appear in your meditation, even if you're initiated. But you have a way out. Because to get rid of them, you simply recite the names with affection and fondness and trust and faith. When you recite the holy names given to you at the time of initiation, with trust and faith, absolute trust and faith, the entities cannot harm you. They should run away. Otherwise they can harass you for a bit. Until you master sometimes you might come out of meditation because you can't handle it, or you write to Master for help, and Master says try again in meditation, but this time with love and devotion or trust and faith in your mantra, and then the entities leave you. And once that's done, it's done. So yes, they can. And yes, you can get rid of it.
Thank you. I've got a few questions about the soul.
Okay.
Does the soul already know the master inside, and are we just uncovering that memory through meditation?
That's correct. All souls are aware of each other. At the level of the soul, everything's about awareness. The individual characters fall away, and you have an instinctive awareness, intuitive awareness rather, between each other. So hence soul recognizes soul. And the soul recognizes super soul. It's not a question. A soul does not be taught anything. Within each soul are all 16 attributes of Satgurus. All the powers of the Lord are within that soul. The soul doesn't have to go to school to learn anything. It doesn't have to be explained anything. It doesn't even have to do anything. It has only one thing, the attraction pull through what we call love and devotion for its source. Okay? So therefore, the moment you enter the soul realm, or the soul itself is in imminent connection with the super soul at all times. It has awareness of everything, but now it has to go there, get there. Why? Because it withdraws its attention away from where it is as an individual and goes back to the collective. Not that it ever left the collective. In fact, the entirety of all this exists in Satgurus. There's no other creation but Satgurus itself. And all the things you see are projections within Satgurus. So he never left. The soul has never left Satgurus. It's the projection of itself away from itself that gives the impression of separation. There's no actual separation even. So therefore there's a knowing, an instant knowing between consciousness and superconsciousness at that level.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Still keeping with the soul, how does the soul decide what gender and to what part of the world and which family it has to be born into?
Okay, we could look at this as the soul decides or the soul is told. Depends. It's the soul doesn't make any decision about these things. Initially, when the soul comes into creation and it's sent in with 1 trillion other souls to make the drama, all of the characters are agreed in advance. So in Satgurus, all the, let's say, individuated souls who are born together to create the drama of creation, could be up to 1 trillion souls, will come together and take on a character. So when the soul comes to Parbrahm, and as Ishwarji says in a nice little story, they pick a DVD, it doesn't actually happen like that. What happens is that the characters that everybody's going to play is agreed already in Satgurus. Now, the reason why it doesn't matter what character they are playing is because in reality they're playing all the characters. So when they're in the one, the collective, it doesn't matter which ray of the sun, where it hits on a stone or on a flower or on a tree, it's part of the sun. The ray doesn't care where it falls. So the soul doesn't care which character it is playing when it comes into creation, because it comes from the one, and in fact is playing all the parts. Yeah. The only time it matters is when it comes at an individual and it takes on a mind tool. So when it takes on a mind tool to create that character, remember the character is created. Just like an actor leaves his home and his wife and his cat and his dog and 2 children, he goes to the stage, dresses up as an actor and suddenly becomes somebody else. All the time he knows who he really is. But he convincingly plays the character, so much so that we love the movie. But then when he steps off the stage, he's no longer in character. Right? So when we put the garments on of the character we're playing, the soul is fully aware that it's not the character. However, it's playing this. Why? For the experience and adventure and thrill of an experience other than reality, other than truth. Why not create a fantasy? Why do we go to the movies? We know it's not real. Yeah? We don't sit for 1 minute in the audience thinking that's really happening. But we still enjoy it. The same thing happens in a more perfect way higher up. The soul puts on the character of an individual character and it takes part in a movie along with all the other characters. At that point it doesn't care which character it's playing because it knows it's playing all the characters. But when it becomes individuated in a character form, the soul then becomes the observer and watches this character at play as an individual, because now the soul is individuated in Parbrahm, and therefore it has to be individuated in order to create a character, right? So then an individual character is latched onto the soul, right? You could say it picks the character, or the character is attached to it, in whichever way you like. You can take it from the bottom of Parbrahm, and then the character picks a destiny. So then the destiny is unfolded, it's collapsed. So the destiny is collapsed like this. Right? Has no time and space, only concept. The moment the character is picked, the destiny is picked with it, all the backlog of karmas of the future, and it's opened out into a timeline of events for up to 3 million years. So you've got 3 million years of the lives and script and going on. It jumps into character and it goes to sleep as an observer. It doesn't interfere with the play. So the soul just watches it as an observer. Watches the play, so we can learn from that, using our higher mind in a similar way to be an observer of our character and our play. Then it comes into character and it plays the part according to the script. The character being created from the script cannot do anything other than what's on the script, because it's actually created by the script. How can it do anything outside of that, even for a second? Now the character part is what you are calling me, or him, or her. And because of this blockage between the truth of it all, a veil has been placed, so you can't see back. When you close your eyes and you try to look within yourself, you just see darkness. The veil is there. To make it convincing, because imagine if you knew that this is only a play, you wouldn't bother with it. So you have to be convinced that it's real. What makes it convincing is the soul sends its power into that to waken that character and makes it alive. It gives it life. Mind has no life. Mind is a machine. Just like a computer is not alive. We put electricity into it and suddenly it becomes alive. Yeah? You unplug the electricity, it's gone. What happened to the mighty machine? Similarly, the soul empowers the character, the mind, and it suddenly does all these wonderful things. The moment you unplug the soul from it, it drops. It finishes. So in the same, that's how the soul initiates the coming into the creation or creating the creation, because actually when these trillion souls come out of creation, they also create the backdrop, the scenery, the entirety of it. From the demigods to the angels to the demons to the heavens to the hells, the entire thing is created. Imagine. The power of the soul is unlimited. Remember, each soul contains all 16 attributes of Satgurus. It has the same creative power as the Lord itself. Right? But it's contained within a small package of separation. It's individuated. Like the drop of the ocean is exactly the same properties of the ocean, but it's just a drop. We call it separated because it's a drop. It's actually the ocean in a drop. So we are actually the Lord in an individuated form. So then with this power, everything is created. And we see it from an individuated perspective. So each one is empowered only to see through its narrow tunnel vision of itself, the character. It cannot see the other characters. It's lost that ability. It has to go higher up to look at it from every character point of view. So now you think that you're an individual character and you're empowered. You believe you're alive. So this character now has somehow become alive, as we call it. Yeah? It's all illusion. But the character believes it's alive because it's empowered by the soul. Now it goes about the script. It's following the script. It's dancing to the tune of the script and the karma, but it thinks it's dancing. It says, I'm doing all these things and you're doing all these things. But they're not. There's no reality to anything that they're doing. It's all made up. But as long as the power is there to power it, and the script is there to give it direction in time, then suddenly the energy of the mind takes place. It's energized. And the character takes shape. And the character follows the script. Yeah? It's a very beautiful system. It's all illusion. And when you step away from all of this, and you can do this a little bit as an observer of your own script in life, step back and look at the whole show and be amazed by the whole thing. You know? But the character will still feel the ups and downs of the script, what's in the script. But the higher mind, let's say observation of the character, which is wisdom mind, then that one can understand and see that it's just a script.
So you don't get emotional about it?
When you reach that level.
Yeah.
Then you just become practical. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Last soul question.
Yeah.
How can we, the character mind, recognise and align with our soul's purpose?
You can't. The mind can never understand the soul. It's like the computer trying to understand the electricity that's powering it. It doesn't understand. It benefits, but it cannot understand or fathom it. No matter what you say to the computer, it cannot fathom the energy. It can only react. You see, the mind tool is a robot. It reacts to a certain programming, which is a script. It doesn't think of its own. It relies solely on the script to tell it what to do next and how to feel. Everything. Everything's in the script. Because it's not real. Because the mind is not a separate real entity, it has a script to tell it what to do. Like software in the computer. Yeah? But the software cannot understand what is powering it. It can only react according to the writings of the software. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Right.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if you're ever intensely present in the moment, can you ever feel the presence of your soul, like from a...
Not from the mind's point of view. The mind cannot comprehend the soul. Even if all mankind came together to discuss the subject, wrote papers about it, analysed it, measured it, it can never understand the nature of the soul. Because they're completely separate entities.
And you can't feel the soul either?
No.
The power of the soul?
No. Imagine the mind could. What would happen? The mind would give up. Why bother going through this fast when it knows there's something better? The only way the mind can be convinced to carry on with this fast, with this illusion, is because it thinks it's all powerful and all knowing. Yeah? Even Brahma tested this. He tried to find who his father was, or the origin of universal mind. He could not. The barrier of the sun that separates Trikuti, or the karmic worlds from the soul world, was so impenetrable that even Brahma, the creator of all of this, couldn't cross it. And he became convinced that there's nothing beyond. So if Brahma could not do this, how can you? Yes.
Okay, I've got a question about the Guru Granth Sahib. In the Guru Granth Sahib, it's written that Guru Nanak says the entire material world is illusion, like the nightly dream. Then what is the role of effort, karma, and meditation within that dream?
It's kind of been answered already in the talk, but I will try to summarize it for this question. Well, when you're looking at roles, firstly, the entire thing It's been pre-qualified by saying this is all illusion. That's a fact. So, does it matter what the role is in illusion? But let's say you are wholly immersed in this illusion and you believe it to be real. So let's take it from a real stance point of view. So what is the role of your awareness in this thing? Simply to follow the script. You are here to observe and participate, but not to get involved with this play in its entirety. You are here to observe your own self in reality. Now, as you go deeper into the darkness of ignorance, you become more and more a part of the play. So when the play tells you to cry, you actually start crying. When the part tells you to laugh, you actually start laughing. When it tells you to dance, you actually start dancing. And you believe that you're doing these things. But remember, we said there's 3 levels of mind. So as we raise our awareness to a higher mind, the higher mind is observation mind. It has the ability to look at the whole thing as a play and to understand the concept of a play. Yeah? So universal mind or higher mind has the ability to do this. If we are functioning in a lower level of mind, then we just see it as a painful illusion, as a painful reality actually, not illusion. And we go along with it in that way. So that's why he related to it as a nightly dream. He said ultimately there's no reality to a dream, but when you're in a dream state, you believe it's real. So that's his reference, that's what he's trying to explain. But the moment you leave the dream state, you know it's not real.
Yeah.
So that's the comparison that he's trying to make. And regarding the role of effort, karma, well, if you're a participation in the play and you have been given a script to follow, you have absolutely no choice in the efforts, the part you're playing, the role, even the meditation, anything. Anything that happens within the physical realm, you have no choice whatsoever. You can only follow your script. And you can think that you're the doer. You can do that if you want to. But I say from a spiritual perspective, it's better to see yourself as an observer of the play and know that there's no reality to anything that's going on.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions about reincarnation now. During reincarnation, does one always have to come back to the same family and country? Or can one be reborn in another country and family, since we have had millions of incarnations?
You see, mostly when you reach the human form, you tend to stay in your circle. So once you've attained human birth, you never really go back to being an amoeba and live at the bottom of a pond. It's possible, theoretically, and Vedic scriptures talk about this because it's possible. You talk about your 84 lakh of life, 8,400,000 species and so on. Once you reach the top, the human, you're never going to go back to all of that again. What will likely happen is that you can flitter between, say, the 4th level species, the 4 element species of mammals and so on, and possibly even go back to a tree for a moment of time, but you'll come back eventually to the human form once you've done your time. In other words, once you reach the human form once, you're going to generally keep going round in that form. Yep. For those who are really poor at being human beings, and they're very much like the human animals, then they go to the animal form. They have to spend some time as an animal for a while. Yeah, or if they are obsessed by a particular form, like they're very proud, arrogant and love their plants, they go back to being a plant. You go where your desires are. So again, somebody once asked me in an email, how do we know where we're going to end up in the next life? Is there any way of finding out where we're going to end up in the next birth? I said, yeah, sure. Where are your desires? If your desires are strongly connected with the family around you, you have to come back to them, one way or another. But if you were, let's say, an animalistic person, you'll be a pet dog. If you were an arrogant and proud person, you'll be the potted plant. And if you were a caretaker or a nurturer, you'd come back in some form, human form, to take care. So it depends on the manner of your connection with the world that determines what happens next, and most crucially at the time of death, which is why masters say that at the time of death keep the master in mind, because then you're not going to create over. See, the master can't override your desire. If you have a connection with somebody and you say, I missed that one, or I'm thinking what's going to happen to my home, or what's going to happen to this one, then you have to come back. So even though master will greet you, you've already foresealed your fate.
Yeah, so be careful what you focus on.
Yeah, which is why at the time of death it's really important. Plus, if you have very strong unfulfilled desires here, that you want to take care of that one, and you weren't there when they died, and forever you've felt in your heart, my mother died, I wasn't there for her, you have to come back and meet her again to be her caretaker. So these obsessions we have in life, and particularly our thoughts, what comes naturally to us at the time of our death, absolutely determine where you're going to end up. So you can have a preview of where you're going to go.
Interesting. Okay. Still with reincarnation, I think you've answered this really. Can one's male or female gender be changed in the next reincarnation?
Of course. If you could change the species, isn't it easier to change the gender?
Got a question on karma. It's got two parts to it. There are many deities, gods and goddesses. First part, how does the performance of puja, which is worship, performance of fire rituals, fire rituals, and japa, reciting the names of the deities 108 times, help mitigate one's negative karma? That's the first part. Second part, are the famous deities in control of how the karma of the world and one's individual karma is played out?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first part is referring to Hindu rituals in Hinduism. So this person's talking from a Hindu background. And in Hinduism, their form of worship are usually towards the idols, representatives of the deities that they believe are there to help them in some way. So they create idols of these, and they do puja to them, which is worship. Then you have havan, which are fire rituals done by the priest there for various beneficial outcomes that you want in life. And you have japa, which is it's their version of a mantra, let's say, and where you recite, say, Ram Ram 108 times using what they call a mala, beads, and these are considered to be enlightening rituals to give you some idea of what it's like to be a yogi, to empower you in some way to win favour, to win grace. So, yes, the interesting thing is this. There's going to be two parts to this answer. The question asked, does it mitigate karma? Does it help with your karma? Now, despite everything I've said, yes, it does, right? But only if it's in the script. Right? So the answer is, if you have to do all these ceremonies, and then the script says after doing all these things you're going to get a favour, then yes, it does. It's apparent, it's not real. Yeah? So now how that the famous deities control the karma, how do they control the karma of the world, I think, was it?
Yeah. Are the famous deities in control of how the karma of the world and one's individual karma is played out?
Absolutely so. Their role, so now we're looking at the role of the deities, their role is to administer the karmic creation in its proper manner, in order to make sure that the absolute script of karmic creation is followed through perfectly. And they have certain roles to play. For example, like Satgurus has 16 attributes that allow creation to come into being, and many other forms of creation you don't know what that exist, okay? We only understand this physical. Similarly, universal mind, or Kal, has manifested the deities as attributes of itself in order to govern creation and run it in a certain way. So yes, and that's why in Hinduism they worship the deities. What they don't know is that it doesn't make any difference to their script whether they worship them or not. But the mere fact that there's certain entities that are responsible for a certain part of karmic creation, administering it and so on, then if you want to comfort yourself, why not? Most of the spiritual part, including Sant, is there just to comfort you. I have to explain this. All the stories that the masters tell you, all the things about effort and grace and masters intervening, divine intervention, helping you, are all stories to comfort you. In reality, nothing happens outside the script. Not even if a holy master is involved. Because the moment they come into this world, they too are bound by the script. That's why when somebody asked Babaji in a recent question and answer video, complaining that they have diabetes and they can't focus because of it, they're in aches and pains and inflammation associated with diabetes and so on. And they said, we start finding difficulty. And then Babaji said, look at me, I've been a diabetic for 30 years. I seem to manage. So he has back problems as well, and you know about the cancer problem he's had. Aren't these normal things of humans? Yeah. So he has to borrow the karmic body in order to exist here. You see, Ishwarji were the same. He had his knee replaced, teeth implants, all kinds of things. Yeah, done to him. Again, he had a karmic body. You see, no one is exempt from this law. No one, whether they be master, commoner, or ant. No one, nothing. Right? Once we can come to terms with this, that the universal law of karma only exists and nothing else whilst we are here, yeah, we're subject to the law, including the masters, then it makes sense of everything. Then we understand that everything is as scripted. Therefore, what can you do other than be an observer and watch, and maybe even perhaps enjoy the script, be entertained by it? And even in the script, if it says you're going to be doing spiritual practice, you do your spiritual practice, raise to higher levels even than that. Maybe become super aware from the soul level, rather than just high mind. And then you know the reality of it all, and you play along with it. Doesn't matter. No matter what part you've been given to play, you don't care. Yeah, because you're saved when you enter the same soul realms. You see? So it depends on our level of awareness and understanding how seriously we take this play. I'm hoping that people on the spiritual path are a little bit more aware than those who are not, and therefore can test this out, can be an observer and see how well they fare without all the stress and worry about it.
Okay. Right, I've got a question about Ishwar Puriji.
You're going to start thinking where you can ask something? No, okay. Yes, go on.
I've got a question about Ishwar Puriji. It's in two parts. Ishwar Puriji said that everything we see is basically rendered from inside us. So it exists. So its existence is simultaneous with our seeing it. For example, a tree isn't there until we see it. So the questions are, how does this fit with talks saying some of the people in our lives are real and others are not? That's the first part. Second part, will the real people still be here after we die, or do they stop existing on this plane when we awaken from the dream state of this plane?
Okay, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, nothing is real here, not even the masters. But the remarkable design here is that within the illusion, there is a being who is a realized soul. The physical is not real. The physical is manufactured like everything else according to the script. But that particular version of illusion is real. So this is what Master was referring to when he spoke about the fact that within this illusion, some things are real. What are real? What is real is those knowers of the truth, those ones who come from beyond mind and Maya. They're real, but not in the physical sense, not in the mind sense, but in the sense that they have awareness of the truth beyond the physical and beyond the mind. So in that case, we should attach ourselves to them, because only through them can we go with them? Wherever they go, we go. Remember what I said at the time of death. It matters where your attachments are, where your desires are. So if you are attached to the master of the day, then you have to go with them. Because that's your desire. So the idea of having a living master here, who whilst is unreal in every physical sense of the word and mental sense of the word, carries a reality within them that can allow you access or out of this, escape from this world. So you attach yourself to them. This is what we call bhakti, or devotion, the path of devotion. We're not attaching ourselves to the physical of the master. We're not attaching even to the mind of the master. We're attaching to the soul, level of souls to soul. Our soul is attaching to their soul. Mind will attach to the mind. So for example, when we feel emotionally attached to a master and we cry when we see them, that's all the mind. There's no reality. The soul doesn't have emotion. The soul is awestruck. When somebody is connected with a master at the level of the soul, they're frozen and they're stunned, in awe. No emotions, no crying, no laughing, no nothing. Right? That's real. That's a real attachment. When you're emotionally engaging with a master, then this is just mind to mind. What you are doing is you're attached to the mind of the master. You like their talk, you like the way they look, you like the way they dress, the way they walk. That's all emotional. That's all to do with the mind. But the masters don't come here for that. That's what we call worship. Masters don't come here to be worshipped. Because they're not the physical. They're more than the physical. But if you worship the physical, then it's just like any other worship. It's doomed. Masters don't come here to be worshipped. They come here to pull you out by creating an opportunity for you to attach yourself to the reality that they represent and get out. So if you believe the master is the savior, your salvation savior, he's going to rescue you, and that is firmly fixed in your mind, then the mind of the master or the physicality of the master does not bear anything in this. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that's the way we should view a master, and that's what Ishwich is trying to explain of that reality within the illusion. That there is all of this illusion, including the physical form of the master and the mental form of the master, but the reality is that that particular individual carries the awareness of beyond the physical, beyond the mental. And by attaching yourself to them, you go where they go. Hence the famous quote, "This is a part of love and devotion." Because that's the simplest way to explain it. But an attachment to the truth that they represent, an obsession, that one carries the truth. You want to know the truth. You want to go back to the truth. Like Jesus said, seek the truth and the truth shall set you free. They represent the truth. You attach yourself to the truth. That happens to be in that body. You're not interested in what the body looks like. You're not interested in what the lifestyle is or the mind. That one carries the truth. You attach yourself to the truth. You're away. That is the reality in the illusion.
Thank you. I've got a question about awakening. What does it truly mean to be spiritually awakened? And is this awakening a destination or a continuous process?
It's a continuous process to start with, but being awakened is of several layers. For example, you can be awakened with the intellect. So imagine you're just reacting emotionally and suddenly you become intellectualized. You study philosophy or science, and now you're becoming an intellectual guru. Yeah, because you've learned something. That's an awakening. But then let's say you want to experience higher things. You think there's something more than the physical. So then you have a connection through, say, yogic practices or other practices. You enter the astral realm and you see yourself as an astral being. And now you realize that the human manifestation of you is not real, it's just a reflection of a reflection. Therefore, that's an awakening. Then you have a higher mind. You go to causal realm and you suddenly realize that all this is illusion. The entire creation is all illusion, and that everything part of it is all illusion. It all comes from the source, Brahma, and that Brahma is the reality. That's another level of awakening. And then you have the ultimate awakening, Par-Brahm, which is when you realize that the entire mind and Maya creation is just an illusion, a fantasy. There's no reality, ruled by a script and time. And your real self is the soul. So then, that is your reality. But then it goes on. You become collective souls, universal soul. Then you're the God. And then you merge with the super Lord, and you become all-knowing God. And then eventually you can even go to Anami Purush, where you become nothing after all that.
Thank you. I've got a question about the path. Can you remind me what I should say to those who want to know what path I follow and why I seem so different from others, especially how I respond to negative experiences from others that may occur?
I don't think we should try to convince anybody of what we are following. The path is for us. If somebody finds our behaviour strange, the first thing you just have to do is either just ignore it, if they're not persistently inquiring, just say, oh, it's just the way I am, it's just my preferences. Or you could try to explain a little more. Say, look, I just follow philosophy, it's like this. We believe in living in harmony with the world and inquiring within, know thyself, that we're more than the body, and we're just trying to do that. We're trying to figure out what is empowering the body and the consciousness. We're trying to understand that. So you just keep it simple. But most thing is not say anything, unless you have to.
Sure. Okay. I've got a question about the future, and there's like 3 questions attached to it.
Okay.
Here we go. Many spiritually awakened gurus and spiritually aware individuals around the world today are sharing messages through podcasts, warning people to be prepared because challenging times are approaching, such as new diseases, floods, earthquakes, etc. Some even say this situation may continue until 2031. 3 parts of the question now. Can you provide guidance on this? Will many people pass away during these years, similar to what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic? And lastly, will those who are initiated be protected during this time?
Okay, so yes, I mean, there's only certain things I can say about what is to come because it spoils the fun for everybody. But yes, there are great difficulties coming our way as a human population here on Earth into the mid-30s. Mostly in this decade, which is why this decade will be known as a decade of disaster, because almost every horrible thing that you can think of will resurface and come about, from plagues to natural disasters to wars to uprisings, civil unrest, economic collapse, you name it, everything on the list. If you look at all the worst things that humans don't like, it'll be ticked on the list. Coming into the 30s, yes, there'll be the tail off that. I think because people would have learned, let's say, a little bit more about the way they want to live their life with all the protests and everything. So by the time the 2030s arrive, it'll start slowing down and start improving. New philosophies, new ideas, new ways of world governance will come into being. A new body will come into being, the World Council, which will replace the United Nations, and there'll be a strict guideline as to societies, each country's responsibility in the world, and so on, and they have to agree to that. And those ones who don't will be literally isolated. There'll be no trade with them whatsoever. So most will join. So 2030 is an interesting transition time. Yeah.
Will many people pass away, like with COVID-19 when that was around? Maybe the plagues?
In many ways there'll be a lot of deaths, a lot of, not so much deaths, but mental health problems.
Okay.
What is to come is going to create more mental health issues than physical ones. And people are just not going to be able to do. The system's going to be overwhelmed with mental health issues. And there won't be a real understanding how to deal with it just yet. But eventually, scientists will step forward, changing diet to veganism. So for example, by the 2030s veganism would be well established everywhere. And the responsibility of manufacturers to produce less chemicals in their foods and make more wholesome foods will also be established. There's going to be a lot of positive changes, but I guess before you get there, you have to have a lot of difficulties and suffering. That's the way we learn. We learn through trauma and suffering, as I said. No one learns other ways. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of difficulties.
So the last bit of that question was, will those who are initiated be protected during this time?
Largely they are better protected. But remember, the way to know what is going to happen to you is your attitude. If you join forces with everybody else and are just as scathing, damning, complaining, horrible, bitter, twisted as everybody else, whether you're initiated or not, it's not going to make any difference. But if you become more noble human beings from the human animal state, and you are initiated, definitely you benefit from that. Definitely. But this is a signpost. It's not that there's any intervention. There's no such thing as divine intervention in that sense. It's just that the script, if you are in that position as an observer, you can see where you're heading. And if you are a noble human being, then naturally you'll see certain things different for you than others. You know? So, yeah.
Okay, I've got a last question now. It's directed at yourself.
Okay.
What insights would you like to share as we navigate this illusory existence of life? I understand you advocate for us to meditate, but what should we be mindful of each day as we go about our lives that will support our true knowing and our time on earth? Your words of wisdom on this are much appreciated.
Well, we're approaching now lunch shortly, so I'll have to be very short on this. I would just say, treat others as you would like to be treated. Seek the high truth in your life. No matter what you're facing, always seek the truth behind everything, the ultimate truth. Understand that you are much more than the physical, and do things what is necessary to identify that for yourself. In other words, prove it by doing those practices, fulfilling those things necessary. And just be an observer of the play. Just go along with it. Don't take life too seriously at all. Just go along with it where you can. Because you have the right philosophy that you've already looked into, and life has taught you that there's no point in fighting against the current. Just go with the flow. So hopefully with life experiences already, if you've suffered enough, you'll just say to hell with it, let me just go with the flow and make the best of it from a practical point of view. Meanwhile, because it is so difficult here, I want to know the truth of it all. That may occur in you. If that's the case, then follow that through. And then in your actions, just do no harm. Do no intentional harm. If you don't want to be harmed, or if you don't want to be suffering, then don't do harm in the first place yourself. Do no intentional harm. Forgive. Do not blame. Do not condemn anyone, whether yourself or others. You know, live peacefully. And do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So that's what I would say.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's it. We're all finished. Are there any questions, by the way? No? Yes, you're all probably hungry now. I've kept you here so long. Anyway, it's good to see you all. Some new faces as well. Welcome to you all. And, you know, after you've eaten something, there will be an opportunity for some personal meetings. So, you know, that is fine. And I hope to see you then. God bless.
देहि पाजे हार की सेव भजो गोविंद फूल मात जा मानस जानम का एहि ला